Okay, we're gonna call the board meeting for July 1 for Newburgh School District in order. And we will start with the flag salute by Director Wolfer.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, this is very exciting because we get to do the oath of office for our 3 new duly elected board members. So we want to have them sort of stand up and just do one at a time.
I would do one. This is actually, I mean, the video, it's gonna.
Oh, yes,
catch it.
that's right. So we'll start with zone 1. And can you read, oh, so in your board packet, excuse me, here's
zone 4.
zone 1. So Andy, sorry, thank you very much. So in your packet is the actual oath of office. If you can read that, then that will get your oath completed.
Okay,
Sorry.
but we want to make it more ceremonial.
Sure.
Why don't you stand up and raise your right hand when you do it?
Oh, there you go. And then we can take great pictures. This is a good idea. Raise your right hand.
Okay. This is right, yeah, okay. I, Andy Byerly, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution, and the laws of the state of Oregon and the policies of the Newburgh School District. During my term, I will honestly and impartially discharge the duties of the office of school board member to the best of my ability.
It's the Oregon Constitution, that second little piece there.
Okay, so then Celeste, you are zone 4. You can stand up, raise your right hand and read.
I, Celeste Jones, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon, and the policies of the Newburgh School District. During my term, I will honestly and impartially discharge the duties of the office of school board member to the best of my ability.
Okay, last but not least.
Got it.
I, Aubrey Nichols, do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution and the laws of the state of Oregon, and the policies of the Newburgh School District. During my term, I will honestly and impartially discharge the duties of the office of school board member to the best of my ability.
I have the election certifications. And so before you leave, we just need to get these signed. Then I have a copy for you, then a copy for us.
Okay. Thank you. Great. Thank you. I just couldn't remember how we did it. Didn't we all stand up and do it all at once last time? But there was 5 of us, so, yeah. Okay, this is very exciting. Next on the agenda is to elect chairperson for the upcoming year. So just under the background, this ORS that we have to do this no later than the next regular meeting. If you remember, we scheduled this meeting for July 1 to accommodate schedules. So the acting chair invites nominations. So I'm the acting chair and I'll invite nominations for board chairperson, and nominations will be heard. If there are multiple nominations, the acting chair will hear the nominations in order. When it appears nominations are completed, the acting chair will declare nominations closed. The board will vote on the nomination or on each nomination in order if previous nomination does not pass by majority. So there you have it. Is there anybody that would like to be chair?
I'll make a nomination. I know normally vice chair often gets nominated due to some changing work things. I would prefer not to be nominated, so I would like to nominate for a second year, Deb Bridges.
Are there any other nominations for chair? Is there a second for the nomination for Deb Bridges? This is very awkward.
I second.
I can call for vote if that makes you.
That's okay. Any further questions?
My
Okay,
question is, do you want it? You don't have to, you can.
I know I don't have to. It was a pleasure to serve last year and I'm willing to serve another year if my fellow board members would like me to do that. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. That was definitely good. Thank you. All right, now we have, elect the vice chairperson, same standard,
Hold on, sorry, do we need, oh, never mind, that ignore me, I'm so sorry.
that's okay. I don't know.
We just didn't like read the whole motion. Do we need to read the whole motion or does
Oh,
the voting and the
I
nomination?
think we're good.
I think we're fine.
Alright,
Why don't you just read it, just into the record? Good, no, I think that's great.
I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors, elect Deb Bridges as board elect chairperson for the 2025-2026 school year.
Okay, thank you. I think that's enough. We did all the voting. Okay, so now we have the vice chairperson. James has said are you interested in being the vice chair?
I am not.
Is there anybody that is interested and willing to be the vice chair for the upcoming year?
I'll nominate myself, so.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Jeremy Hayden. Do you want to make a motion? You nominate yourself, so I guess,
I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors elect Jeremy Hayden as vice chairperson for the 25-26 school year.
we have a second? Well, did you nominate yourself? You didn't make the motion, so we need a second, so
Second.
you're second, okay. All in favor? Oh, any further questions? Sorry, right,
I
yeah,
still need a second.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Jinx, okay. We're a well-oiled machine in this, so it's kind of an awkward sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we have a first and a second. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Yay,
Congratulations.
yay, okay. Boy, we got that done with a little bit of awkwardness. Less than before?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the agenda that was proposed, but I am, under review for the agenda. I had spoken with Dave about moving the board action items, up after the consent agenda, because the reports, presentations, and discussion items is really gonna be about, our discussion time, and thought maybe we get the real business of the board meeting out of the way. So I need a motion to move that agenda item.
I move that we move the board action items to position or following consent agenda,
Yes,
so that would be position 8.
yep.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Great. So Nathan. Oh, no, sorry, we've got the consent agenda. Basically,
I have to say, in a July board meeting packet, it's really nice to see that we're accepting teacher contracts instead of a list of folks that are including their service here.
we have,
I also wanted to point out that the date on this says July 11.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. Two different formats there.
oh, I wonder if it was a typo.
It's gotta be a type.
Yeah, okay.
June 23rd.
So to reflect,
My first 2025.
Yeah.
It was the June, right?
well, the June 24th minutes are
Mixed in, yeah.
are
So that's July, let's just say July 1.
just at the top for the board. On the June 24th minutes. And I agree, it's really nice to not see a exodus of folks.
That's partially around, refilling retirements, we didn't really cut out of the core. So this is mostly, there's some PE here because there is some movement around PE. For us to comply with the state, so that's what some of this hiring is trying to get our core teachers filled before the start of the year. And it is good. It's a really good hiring moment. There's really deep pools. I think the Maple Rush job had 50 applicants.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so it's a good hiring time if we can.
Okay, so we just need a motion.
I move that the Newburgh School Board, District Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Does the light need to be on all the time? To show
No.
okay.
No, it's catching sound because it's like showing the different pictures.
Got it, okay.
So it's definitely picking up what's going on.
Wanted to make sure.
Okay, Nathan, you have a number of,
Ready? All right. So every year we have authority that the board grants to the district to custodial tasks that happen. And so there's 4 of these here. We'll have probably a couple more in August that we're gonna look to where some things land for school accounts. So there'll be another one of those. So the first one we have is resolution 2026-01. And we have 2 of these authorizing deposit and withdrawal. So this allows us to use banking entities to move cash around. The first one is for the LGIP, which is the local government investment pool, where we invest most of our funds. And then this, move on to the second resolution. We have this one.
I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors adopt resolution 2026-01, a resolution authorizing deposit, withdrawal, and borrowing of funds by title only.
Second.
any further questions?
I'm assuming there was no changes from last year to this year. I mean, like, if there was something on the list that we should be aware of.
Nope, should be the same ones.
Okay. I know last year they presented just like a list of whatever, and it could have been similar from the outside of subsidiary list of. But that could have been because we're crossing people off or crossing banks off or whatever and adding new ones,
So that'd
so.
be the next resolution that you're looking at.
Okay, so,
Okay. No further questions, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right, and the second resolution is the same, however, this is private entity, so this is Wells Fargo Computer Share Corporate Trust, which who does our first bond and retail payments. Science Bank, which is the investment bank for our bond funds, Umpqua Bank, which does some of our ASBs, and then again, the GIP. And this resolution also includes the borrowing limitation for ORS, which just says that our borrowing cannot exceed a certain percentage of our taxable real property of the county. So that's this one.
I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors adopt resolution 2026-02, a resolution authorizing deposit and withdrawal of funds by title only.
second,
Any further questions? We'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is role-based resolution, which just says who fulfills the statutory roles of our government organization. It identifies the district clerk, deputy clerk, budget officer, custodian of funds, auxiliary authorizers for purchases or purchase orders, and federal grant representatives. And then also this identifies who our council of record is, and our district auditors and insurance.
Are these all the same firms as last year?
As far as lawyers. or-
Yeah.
Yeah, we've used GHR, Hungerford, Willamette ESD is the main one down base.
Okay.
I move that the Newburgh School District Board of Directors adopt resolution 2026-03, a resolution establishing designated school district appointments, financial auditors, and legal counsel by title only.
Second.
Any further questions? Call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, and the last one for today is 2604, which authorizes the lending of general funds to grant funded programs. This just means majority of our grants are reimbursement based, so we gotta pay for things up front and ask for the money afterward, and this just authorizes us pay go ahead and then get the money back from that after that.
I move that the Newburgh Dundee Public Schools Board of Directors approve resolution 2026-04 to authorize the lending of general fund monies to federal, state, and other grant funded programs pending receipt of funds by title only.
Second.
Any further questions? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Great. Thank you, Nate. Okay, so now we are going to move into the reports, presentations, and discussion items. To, can we take just a couple minute break?
Yeah.
If I need to go.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
And we will.
Just a minute.
Probably need to rearrange your seating, yeah.
We decided to not.
Just kidding.
We were thinking about that, but then you were gonna
Okay, we're back to order from our small break. So now we're into the reports, presentations, and discussion items. And we're gonna talk about board committees. And what you have in front of you is what our 24-25 boards and the members were. And so what we really need to do is go through each committee and identify who wants to be on what committee. So for the advisory board, our board members were Jeremy Hayden and Saul Allen. The policy committee members were Saul and Aubrey, and we have a spot open for a third person on that committee. And then personnel was myself and James. And Nancy was part of that as well. And then the facilities committee was James and Jeremy.
With me, yes, I've been after that already.
You were asked. So, you know, I'd like to know where your interests lie, if you want to be on a specific committee. I think from a management perspective, the personnel committee should be made up of the two leadership positions. But I'm open to suggestions about where folks might wanna to serve. So, let's start with the Finance Advisory Board. Jeremy and Saul, do you still have interest in being on those, or do you have interest in being on?
Could I just ask, could we do just a quick, because we've got a board member who probably would, many of us would benefit from just hearing.
Well, and I think it would be great. So Jeremy, since you were the chair, why don't you talk about the Finance Advisory Committee
Yeah.
and what you guys did?
Yeah, essentially, it was, me and Saul is from the board here, and I wanted to also highlight this anyways, we only really had Claire Hurt, which was she was one of the budget committee members. The way it's written out is the budget committee member chair and vice chair should automatically get a seat there. The chair last year, she withdrew halfway through, we didn't feel like we needed to refill that position. So like this year, if that still holds true, then that should be Kim as chair and then Claire again as vice chair. I believe she's still vice chair, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of from the committee, the public, and the rest of the community members were essentially, when we asked for applicants, it was really a lot of people that were in the finance arena within their organizations. So we have somebody on there from George Fox that's done some of the finance work. We have somebody on there from THPRD. We have somebody that used to be a California, I think, school finance person or something California based. So those are the community members, and it really is just gonna be the focus on what we want, what the board wants to continue to strive for, making sure that we have extra set of eyes on the finances in general. There could be special tasks, like last year, one of the special tasks, because of all the fiasco we had was, do we really need to like do a, what's that called? The audit, the forensic audit, because we thought maybe there was some I guess people may have thought that there could have been people, stealing money. And we came together as community members and advisory board and said, well, no, we think it's really just mismanagement of the budget and lack of transparency, et cetera. So like we then came back to the board and said, we don't feel that you need to spend money on the forensic audit. Use that to like find your next CFO. So those are some of the things that's one example of what we've done there. Me and Saul were just talking about it. I'll let Saul speak for himself, but it actually is a great board, and we always say like we should start rotating this yearly because you learn so much about finances in this, more than just what Nathan does. What he provides is awesome, but this is so much more of a little more deeper dive into what state school funds are, how that, and then like our state tax or county taxes and stuff like that, how they balance each other out and some more of the processes. So, that's just, I guess I'm touting that, but.
Yeah, I would say a couple things. I think that we need to decide as a board what the finance, if we want to consider the finance advisory board still, or just the finance committee. I based on the original document that we were given and the reason why we formed, I think that we probably need to figure out what we want from that. And yes, I mean, things like when we get the state school fund sheets, like we learned how to read them. And it was like, I know how to read them, and then we learned, it was like, this all makes so much more sense now. So I do think that it could be really beneficial for any of our members to be on there to just get a little bit better background in a non-2 hour time period where we're trying to get through everything else. So I do think we should keep the finance committee. I think we may want to, after we have members on and we have a chance to talk, or they have a chance to go and collaborate on what ideas they have. I think that it would be better for us to come back and figure out a direction on what we want from that, after it's sent. That makes sense.
Okay.
And I would, as far as spots of committees and everyone having one, I would like to step down from that committee.
Okay. So let's hear from the policy committee. So Saul and Aubrey, do you guys want to give us a little?
I love the policy committee. I think we've just started. We've got
How many?
a lot of
500?
500 and some odd to go. I think we intend to meet monthly.
That's kind of where I was headed. We really need to sit, I mean, we need to get the schedule set now.
Yeah,
So that we kind of have it set. Once we got into the year, it became hard to get it scheduled. But I think part of that is, it should be like monthly, and we're bringing to the board every month, we're bringing a set of documents.
yeah. Go ahead.
Are all of these committees monthly?
Depends. They actually have different rates because they have different needs.
Yeah.
Like the finance advisory board, we met heavily for like, probably twice a month for the first 3 months or so, and then we kind of held back to the only about once a month. And then once we actually presented our final kind of presentation to the community, to Dave and the community, then we actually haven't met since. So we've had a hiatus for that advisory board, so.
The policy committee, I feel like we need to set our schedule, but we've got a good direction, we know how to do it. I know this summer might be a little wonky, but I feel really confident in the next year at least of the policy committee. And I'm happy to stay on that.
Yeah, just in terms of what it is, it's, it's not this idea that we're sitting there talking about what policies we want to create. We are going through policies that OSBA has said are needed, is missing, is outdated, and going through the language that they've given us to come back with what works best for our district. And I mean, at this point, it is an update frenzy, so it's a fast hour or two when we do this.
So I think from a consistency, probably the policy is doing most of the work, has most regularly scheduled meetings out of all of these committees. Because going into the personnel committee, that's, the board has one employee, our superintendent. And this is really generally if we have a problem, but also annually, starting the evaluation process and then hiring and whatnot. So that's not a heavy lifting position either, committee. And then the facilities committee.
Really kind of started based on my request, and then at that point we had Trevor on there, and once he left, then James been on there, but I don't know if we've even met physically with James. It's all been kind of phone calls or, calls with Dave. I was really wanting to manage the Dundee sale. And then we were tasked at one point to help streamline the list of what the bond money could be used for, the remaining part. We met a couple times on that when me and Trevor were involved. So again, not a very heavy one at this point, but if Dave needs to bounce something off, say like the sale of the Dundee property, he maybe hit us up first. And then maybe take a direction or then present it to the board or whatever, so.
Would that also end up encompassing the Rennie Field?
I'm sure, yeah.
And I wonder if facilities committee could maybe take on some of that work of organizing ranking projects from the CET tab.
Right, and that.
Yeah.
So Aubrey, I hear you are interested, saying that you're interested in staying on policy.
Yes, ma'am.
I am as well.
And that is not one that, I mean, I think I'm happy to welcome a third member too, but it doesn't feel dire that we have a third member joining us. It is a very procedural thing that we've kind of got down, so if somebody wants to join, fine, but I think with two people, it is plenty.
Is there anybody interested in being on the finance committee? Let's start there at the top.
Is that one, Saul, that you were saying, or Jeremy, I'm not quite sure, that you guys would like to see us just sort of rotate through one of us per year? And one of you stay on it, or should we have two new people each year?
I don't mind staying on this one for another year, just cause I started this last one and stay on. Yeah, I think it should be a rotational thing
I like that
where,
idea. I think that's-
so, you know, by the time you're 2 or 3 years into this, you really truly understand finances and what reports Nathan provides us and stuff like that, so.
I'm interested in finance.
Yeah, great.
And I think that that's one, then you can tell me if you think different, that 3 members could be great, just in terms of.
Yeah, we have a lot of,
Necessary, but.
yeah, I mean, I think, but going back to what you said, so I don't know if this format
Yeah.
could be the way it's held either, so 2 to 3 is fine, because we knew we were looking for so much community members involvements. We actually started with only asking for 3, we had all 6 applicants, they were all great, and then we actually came back to the board. Hey, we approved, in this up to 6, and then so we can include all the community members that applied. So. I know, it's just a good discussion from a city and there, another part of it's a good, measurement of outside perception. We see it here within the school, you know. Building structure as board members, we hear our stuff, but then these people are also in their own little communities. Hearing stuff or maybe have concerns, so it's a good voice. To come back into, to have this finance discussions.
Andy, where do you feel like you wanna?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that, from the perspective of the kind of work that's happening, I mean, I think I could bring strengths to the policy committee. Just based on my professional background, but hearing that there isn't a third member that's really needed. I can step into the facilities committee. Would be a good one. I also wondered if we do want, to rotate through the finance advisory board. We could just do it in zone order. And one, so that would be fine too.
Do you have any interest in committees? I know that you're concerned about your extra time.
I don't mind staying with facilities, wouldn't mind if someone else was interested in personnel coming off that and,
So it's gonna be the 2 of us,
yeah, so I wouldn't mind coming off of personnel.
okay?
I could do policy if you needed a third, but it's not like you did. I don't think I have the bandwidth for the finance right now, so.
Okay, so I'm gonna put you on facilities. I'm good.
I don't know, for the policy, I would suggest if there is interest for 3, have
Yeah.
3, because what if 2 people are conflicted, you have a third voice that helps break the tie and or just different perspective, so. My guess is, besides going through SBA stuff, there may be a policy or 2 that may be new coming through, so.
So Andy, do you wanna be on the policy committee?
Sure.
Who am I missing? Anybody? So I have Jeremy and Celeste on finance. Policy, Aubrey, Saul and Andy. Personnel is Deb and Jeremy. And then facilities, I have James. I think we should have a second person on facilities.
If somebody else wants to take it, that'd be great, if not, I'm willing to stay on it, it's an interest of mine. And I've worked with like CPRD in the past, so it's just the facility, you know. I have an interest for that, but
Okay.
I don't have to be there, so.
Just wanna make sure that as vice chair, you're not over extending, but you'll stay if you are. So that sound good? Yeah.
Do you need a third for personnel?
Yeah.
It was helpful for, come on, I'm not saying wrong there, I was saying it was helpful when we did it, hopefully we never have to do that again, but it was helpful when we were having to draft things and go through things for hiring Dave, going through and collecting things and just share that burden, because personnel is definitely one that, yeah, it doesn't do a lot until it does, and then there's a lot that can go into that, so.
Well, and I think, you know, we've discussed sort of our, you know, at a previous board meeting about potentially extending a contract. But where I see this is probably, the biggest is probably in 3 years. When, you know, so maybe personnel can just be the two of us for now. And then we can always, you know, if we feel like we're becoming, it's just too much, we can add another one. And what I really want is people's interests to be met as well. So it sort of seems like we've got everybody, so I'll just go back over this. So finance, we have Jeremy and Celeste. Policy, Aubrey, Saul and Andy. Personnel, Deb and Jeremy. And then facilities, James and Jeremy.
Yeah, we probably will have another committee though, because we have already talked about openly that we'll probably be doing boundaries and district committee.
Well, that'll be,
Those will actually be superintendent committees, and then I'll invite board members to that. Definitely in both the strategic planning and the boundary committee will need volunteers, so.
Okay, well, and that's why I just didn't know if we wanted to start outlining that now or
I
wait.
think, I think we can actually, if you have some interest, I mean, I need 3. After 3, we have a quorum, but if 3 folks want to get, I mean, it's gonna be a really challenging, so it's gonna take a lot of great thinking, both from our community, from the board, from our people, our staff, our parents. It'll be a very large committee, probably 50 plus folks involved in it. I haven't drafted, it's on my to-do list for the next week is to kind of draft out the schedule and everything, so. Maybe if you guys think about it, I'll come back to you with kind of, or if you have an interest, let me know. And then we'll kind of talk about it in one of the upcoming board meetings and off we go.
yeah,
Strategic planning, I think that's another one that'll happen. I'm looking at the timelines right now, but it's probably January through March now, and so that would be another place where I'm looking for probably 3 board members to get involved in that. Again, it will be another large committee, probably 50 plus people, meeting fairly often, every other week, probably for a couple of months.
yeah, I think that's good to check in with Dave if you're interested in how to participate in that. I think strategic planning, we should all be somehow connected with. And just a reminder, we're gonna be reaching out to the students that had interviewed that weren't selected as student representatives of the board.
I talked to all of them and they're all interested, the ones who weren't selected are all interested in being part, so it should be great to keep them involved and keep it in.
So just to clarify, you will have 2 separate committees with about 3 board members.
Yes,
So hopefully all of us minus 1 will be able to.
Yeah.
Kind of share the load.
exactly.
Yeah.
And those will be active committees.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Because the chair appoints, we don't have to vote on this, right?
Mhm.
Okay, just want to do that. Not messing that up. Okay, look at us, just completed our first real business, how exciting. So board agreements, Dave,
Chair Bridges, before
Yes.
we move on, I also learned about school assignments, we had talked about.
oh yeah, but
That's not on here.
we don't have the school assignments.
Is that right in August then?
No, let's.
And we can do it here,
I have the last week.
so the school assignments were based on the schools in your zone, but zone 4 doesn't have school. And Director Woodward chose to be part of Catalyst and
Maple Rush, I think.
Mount-
No, Mount View.
Mountain View.
Yeah,
Everybody basically is assigned to the high school. And then we're all encouraged, highly encouraged, to participate in all the schools in some fashion. So, Crater would anticipate would remain James Wolfer, Director Wolfer. Dundee would be Director Byerly, Edwards would be Director, oh my God, Nichols.
Yeah.
Ewing Young, that would be me, Joanne Austin, I'm just gonna go by everybody's first name, Saul, Mabel Rush, Jeremy, Chelan Valley, James had also identified that one. And then Mountain View, Nancy and Jeremy. And then Catalyst, Nancy, oh, that's where it was, Catalyst and Jeremy, so let me just show you that. So I think it's reasonable that we each take the school in our zone.
Yeah.
And,
What are the responsibilities for this school assignment?
well, I think let's have a little talk about what we've all sort of done. So I'm at Ewing Young, I think really the goal is to be a liaison to the school. And, you know, build a relationship with the administrator there, be active in the school, go to events when you can. So for Ewing Young, I go to the supply drop-off night, which is the most fun, especially in elementary school. It is just so much fun to see the kids, they're all excited about where their stuff needs to go and where the Kleenex boxes get, you know, put. I attend their auction, but candidly, I attend everybody's auction, so. Guess I like to go to auctions. I go to, you know, events when I can. I think at Christmas, I sent everybody a little Christmas card, like everybody in the building, a Christmas card, so it's up to you, whatever you wanna do, I mean, you don't have to do that.
This is dub level, this is.
Right, I know. So why does, maybe somebody else talk about, what you guys might do, or your thoughts about.
I think of it as kind of cheering on that school, like, I'm there obviously to be a liaison and I want, and have a relationship with the administration and the employees, the team, but also just to be aware of what is going on at that school so that I can help celebrate it and help lift that up. And I think we all try in our board comments from time to time to just shout out awesome things happening, and it's a bit more natural for me to shout out the awesome things happening at the school that I'm representing. So I think of it a lot as just being sort of having that really positive, somebody to sort of speak on behalf of the school to the greater community too.
Yeah, I would say the same, just try to form a relationship with the administrator. Last year was not a good year for me to volunteer much or go see stuff, but yeah, I tried to go do that. I did a lot of high school stuff because my daughter was a senior, but other than that, from Maple Rush, I was kind of a little lacking last year, but I need to do better effort this year. But yeah, come to, you know, their 4th, 5th grade performance day, you know, if I can, do, you know, whatever, you know, things they do, so that's what I've done in the past.
Yeah, I'd say just being visible for people there so that they know that you can be there as a support or somebody that they can give ideas to. I think it's an interesting thing, just Jeremy saying I have a child there, so it's easy for me to go to the things when they're happening. Yeah, I think it's mostly just being available, letting them know that if they have something they want to bring up, you kind of have a guided person right there to help out.
And we do post this online, right? Do we have a page that has this? I think we do. Maybe not. I know people have reached out to me directly via email, knowing my relationship, or at least being over that area. I literally live like 2 blocks away from all those 3 schools, high school, middle school, and Maple Rush, so people know where I am.
I would say the only thing I would add beyond what others have shared is I've started to get involved with the parent group. So schools have a parent group that is another way to stay connected to families that are there. So service opportunities and you know, uplifting kind of what's happening in that school. And likewise, I've had some folks reach out directly because they know that my zone is Dundee. And so that's kind of a beautiful thing. I really
Mhm.
enjoy getting to connect with things happening in off hours.
Mhm.
So kind of make what you make of it.
And you're just in a funny spot because you don't have a school.
Yeah.
In your
Okay,
zone.
is there a question that I need to answer?
So do you want a school or do you want?
Well, yeah, we
Yeah.
wanna know if you know, based on everybody's picking a zone, is there, a spot that you would like to sort of be the assigned board member for?
I'm happy to take what Nancy was working with.
Okay.
Advocate at Mountain View.
Okay.
Kind of special interest, so
Sure, okay,
that will work
Perfect.
just fine for me. Might make it easy.
okay, great.
Speaking of school, like, board assignments and what Andy just brought up. I know me and Aubrey been talking off to the side to try to maybe get the collective of PTO groups together and talk about a school district strategy on supporting all schools, not just specifically. I don't know, I'm not trying to open a can of worms, just like, I know there could be, maybe that could be also work that we individually help tackle, but then, you know, bring some people together or whatever, so.
Are you talking about fundraising?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the benefits of just trying to come together, because everybody does their own thing. Some schools don't have good fundraising, some, you know, have great ones, and just and opportunities of how PTO groups can help each other and help the other schools, so,
Yeah, I think it's a real big conversation that,
yeah.
you know, hopefully we could have someday. Cause each of those parent groups are their own 501(c)(3)s and there's a lot that goes into running those, but I think. Perhaps initially it could be a great idea, like Andy said, for us each to just commit to connecting with the parent groups at our school in the next year. If you haven't already done so, and just kind of get a feel for how the parent group is run at that school and what their needs are and. A while ago, gosh, 2 years ago now, there was an effort to have a representative from each parent group meet via Zoom. It was fairly short-lived and not entirely successful in that iteration, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen again and be a successful endeavor, but I think that that's a kind of a big project, and I think it would be wise of us to just start with each of us getting to know the parent groups at our schools.
I'd agree.
I agree. I think, starting there is good. I'd like to sort of understand how it would work to have.
Yeah.
You know, I also want to maintain our role.
Yeah.
And I want to be really sensitive to that as school board members, what is our role? Because I think building those relationships with the building administrator is important, but it's not, I don't think I want, you know, Principal Henderson calling me on a Saturday night and saying, gosh, Deb, I'm really, you know, this is a big problem, and I have to remind him that, you know, not that he's never done that. I'm just saying that I would not ever want to happen. I wanna say, maintain that relationship is you go to your supervisor, which is, you know, the principal, but it is the superintendent, but what is important, I think, is the community to see us out being active, and for me personally, I get thanked all the time. I was in a Lucille Ball episode at Chehalem Valley Middle School scooping ice cream one summer for some back to school event, and it was just like, I was like insane, and I was covered with ice cream, and they were like, thank you so much for being here, and I'm like, oh, you're welcome. I just felt so gross, but it was kind of fun. It was just so hot, and I don't know why it's been a back to school thing. They needed volunteers, and it was, okay, I can scoop ice cream, but by the time they were all just melting like crazy. But people really appreciate to see you out there. You know, when I go to the back to school nights, I always make sure I say hi to the teachers. I've gotten to meet parents of the teachers who come from wherever state that they live in to be there for back to school. It's so much fun to be out in the schools, but just reminding that we have a role and we don't want to cross sort of that. We're not administrators.
And we're gonna talk about that.
So we don't have to vote on this, but does everybody feel comfortable with their assignments? And
I would also just say one other thing, which is, a couple of times this year, folks got a hold of me because they had an interest to go see something in the district. If you just, even if you're contacting the principal, just CC me, so I see it and I can help facilitate. making those things happen. Sometimes it was CTE and getting to see what was going on there, maybe the middle schools, but we can also, if you have an interest or something's piquing your curiosity, just let me know and we can get that set up.
Do each schools, do you know if each school has like an event email or distro that they send event things out to?
Yes, but I'd also say that we're doing a lot of thinking about our communication right now. And how to clarify some of that. There is a calendar, a Google Calendar you can basically connect with that you can sort by school and you can pull all sorts of events off of.
That was the biggest thing for me is I don't know when everything's happening, and so.
I wonder if. Would a director be able to be added to a school's weekly newsletter mail list?
Oh, yeah, you all have accounts, so it'd be
Yeah.
really easy for us to.
So like, to me, it's easy because I get the Edwards one because I'm a parent,
Right.
but thinking about, Andy, it would be, if getting that weekly Dundee email would probably be an awesome way to be in the loop. Yeah,
That's a great idea. So what I would ask though is Dave, that you would ask,
Yeah.
that it comes from you to say, hey, these are these are the board directors that are liaisons to your school. Could you please add them?
and I'm not sure if, does the high school do a weekly or monthly?
They do.
And like, I would love to receive the high school and the Catalyst one if possible, and shoot, the middle school, send them all.
Okay,
Well, it's good info just to keep up with, and again, a lot of schools, we're gonna talk about it tonight, which is one of my goals will be around the engagement of the community, and so there's an opportunity for, this is exactly the kind of stuff that we're talking about.
Cool.
I would say, if we all get added, just add the board members distro to each of the schools and you're good, so.
We're gonna be.
We're all gonna get them,
a lot of email.
but hey, it's our school email, not our personal email,
Right.
so we can. You manage.
Okay, so do we feel good about the school member assignments? Thanks, Andy, for reminding us about that.
Sure.
We want to talk about board agreements?
Yeah, we're off my part of the agenda here, if you can pull up the presentation for me. So what we've got here. We've got a whole series of questions and I want to kind of open this up with look at that. So we're right in the middle of starting some work here to really start looking at, it's really our strategic planning work around what's our purpose, our promise, and what are the student attributes that we're looking at? What do we believe that we're doing here in our school district? This started several weeks ago with our McCrell training with our administrators. There was work that we did in that, trying to pull some of this information. Tonight, we're gonna start with some questions to you that I'll be using to kind of begin to draft what are we doing here and why do we do it? When I left in 2018, I could have told you exactly who we are. We've done tons of community engagement. And since that time, I think we're still that same group, but we need to actually ask those questions and find out where we believe. So tonight, that's kind of what we've got going. I've got some helpers here who are gonna do some recording for us. We've got some questions, we've got some conversations structured. And in the end, we'll go through the board agreements and where we want the board goals to go. This again is a work session, so there's no decisions we're making here tonight. All I'm looking for you is get feedback. And then we'll form up drafts and get those to us in August and start doing some of the actual definitive work, but it's just gonna go. And now I think we're gonna go faster than I was thinking. So what I'm gonna encourage you to do is think fast, talk fast. We got 8 sets of discussions to lead and I was thinking 10 minutes a section and that'll put us here till about 9. So I'm gonna try and work this a little bit quicker, but still get what we need out of it. So with that, I'm gonna
Maybe your,
I need my Vanna, I guess.
I think this PowerPoint's on.
There we go, I'm off the roll. So we're gonna roll, just some norms, I just threw these up here. Speak your truth right now, it's a good time for us to start figuring out what we believe. Balance your participation, avoid making assumptions, be respectful, I don't think our board does a really nice job of this. But again, just wanted to lay out some things for us to think about as norms. Stay curious, accept non-closure. Use of first names tonight, I would say, let's go with first names, this is meant to be a discussion. Okay. Around you, you've got some sticky notes. Grab yourself some of those. We're gonna give you a little bit of private think time, but here's the question. Why does public education matter? What are we giving kids they may not get anywhere else? So the question is, what's our purpose? What do we do here in public education? And what are some of the things that you think kids are getting from it? This is like a super important question for us to have an understanding of, so we're gonna start with that. And write a single thing, a single thought on a note and get to a new note. We're gonna end up throwing them up on the board. My two assistants will come and grab them after we do some reading. We are gonna have you read these out and we're gonna share them out. But we'll give you a little time to think and write.
One per.
Yeah, one per sticky note if we could.
Spelling matter.
No, no.
Can't do one word.
Looks like people are slowing down a little bit. What I thought we'd do is have it, we'll just, I think, zip through, have somebody read it. And then if you've got one that's the same thing, hold it up and the ladies will come pick them up and we'll stick them up on the board as we're kind of going along, so we kind of see what the themes are. But really, it's just this idea of, why does public education matter? James, you want to start us off?
Start with one.
Yeah,
Good schools create strong communities.
love it.
Community.
Got it.
In the building.
Ari,
Tools, provided to students so that they can thrive after high school, whether in the college or the workforce.
It's a great functional goals.
Great functional adults, I think also would be it.
And for life outside of.
Better futures,
Well, I got a couple of ones that might be going.
it's all future oriented.
I have one that says give kids a safe place to make mistakes.
Oh.
Those two. Oh, there. Oh, wow. You left already. I'm
That's-
sorry, I
that's
didn't see, I
okay.
didn't see it.
Oh, and that sort of actually one that says safe environment for learning.
That's
safe environment, safe
Yeah.
learning, mistakes are good, anything like that.
I mean, I have a
safe
safety.
environment to learn.
Connection and belonging. That's.
I have hope and learn.
Some safety in that. For your
I have hope for future and a place to dream.
Well, that's future, that was future.
Oh, yeah.
Finding your path.
Where's your safe environment?
So you can just hand them over there.
Okay.
Potentially, potential learning.
It's sort of.
This one goes with one that Deb just said about
Future.
some future oriented.
Okay. And then teach core subjects to help them be successful adults. I think that's.
I put opportunity, giving kids opportunity to learn critical thinking.
Yeah,
Love that.
equal opportunity to learn.
Set mine up already that had that on there.
What'd you have on there?
It was about learning, knowledge and skills.
Oh,
It's like,
Yeah.
rigorous.
Take a reread.
Yeah, I think the critical thinking, knowledge and skills, that's again, a very important aspect
Yeah.
that we need to highlight.
I have one that's received special services. I mean, it's not only a legal
Yeah.
requirement.
Yeah.
Gives kids access to things,
Yeah.
families access to things and services that they don't maybe receive elsewhere, so.
Well, what I think is kind of overarching I have is give every child a chance.
Cool. I love that.
I have all students welcome every day.
Diversity, people with thoughts and ideas.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go with that.
Yeah.
Always coming this way.
Dealing with diversity, promoting diverse environments.
Yeah.
Oh, this goes with your song.
I just said that one. Sometimes it's the only place for them to eat or confide in a single.
I've got food, routine, safety,
Yeah,
basic needs met. You know, also.
I had a life skills that I gotta put up there, so it's kind of.
Let's see. Because it's like,
So critical thinking and then not, Andy had one that said like knowledge. Skills.
Which Holly had right now.
it's not the same.
Yeah, but I think food is a big.
So you've got the food and then kind of.
I did food and like safe adults, kind of like both. It kind of goes to the basic needs, because sometimes it is the only place in the house.
Would anyone, I'm sorry, this really is a blitz. This may have been said and I just missed it. Do we have something up there about being a part of the Newburgh community, like schools?
I have social and community involvement.
Yeah, I got one of them.
Well, and is that? The second, what's our purpose? Okay, there we go. I've got some regarding the what's our purpose.
That's all, that's both of them.
Yeah.
What does it matter?
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they're both, it's. kind of
Oh,
the same
okay. Oh,
question.
I,
I'm
okay.
trying to give you a wide
This
swath.
could have gone anywhere.
Yeah,
What
so
do you got?
put active community engagement, investment, amazing educators. Somehow.
Just creating foundations for kids to seek to learn later in life.
Oh, I have this one for that.
Yeah.
That's
They
not
want to set a
very-
place to be creative.
What was your Celeste?
I said, so I was highlighting reading and writing, like the purposes of reading and writing are like easy ways to continue to learn the rest of your life. It's expensive to have somebody tell you knowledge the rest of your life, but you can read and write. Then you can be lifelong learner more easily.
Yeah.
That's what I said about a place to be creative.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was.
Who's got some left? I thought you had them in your hand, Bill.
I gave him.
What if you, as you're putting them up there, what do you see as some themes for us? Yeah, I was thinking, but
You're one group, though.
So we've got, purpose around community,
yeah,
hope for the future and creativity, educators, critical thinking and knowledge, smaller communities for learning, safety, future ready, post-secondary success ready,
yeah.
firm foundations, lifelong learners. What do you have over here? Safety,
It was in my brain right now.
safety, diversity, adversity. Special services, every child chance, equal opportunity. Yeah.
Anything that we're missing there, I mean, that's a great swap. That's an excellent start for us.
I put one, this is up there in some form, but I wanted to name it explicitly, opportunities for awareness of college and ways to connect with college and career. So CTE, programs of study, dual credit, opportunities to connect with what's in the house. So maybe that's in the future oriented.
The, again, I think this is really important moving forward because again, the world's changing. You're gonna see an AI policy come in front of you in August. And the world's changing. And so like, what are we teaching kids besides the things that we already do, that how are you going to be ready in our new world? Whether your collaboration skills, your critical thinking skills, your communication skills, all of those things are actually becoming more and more important for us. So, okay, question number 2. What's your purpose? If a student asked you, why did you choose to serve on the school board? What would you say to them? And again, we got stickies going, so write some of your purposes.
As my old teacher asked me to.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Getting it before something falls off. Andy, you want to start us off here?
Sure, a couple that came to mind, I think first and foremost, I'm a dad. I'm a dad who wants the best for my kids, and for all of our kids, in the community.
Awesome. Any others like that? But that was a good method.
Here, what was the last part of the sentence?
Wanting the same, I want the best for my kids, but also all of our kids in the community.
posters they did.
It messes up the owl, is why we're gonna try and get it off.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Said something about it, so I said. There's a little bit more rural than the time I ran, but to ensure there actually were schools for children to attend. I think that was a question.
But I heart school, that was very overreaching, but I love schools, I love education.
Yeah, I have, so I believe in public education.
Right, yeah.
Fundamentally, in my core.
So I have a couple that I believe, in the transformative nature of public education.
there's a public education.
I believe a well-educated citizens promote democracy.
Yep.
Make sure all kids have opportunity to thrive, and this is really why I ran, was concerned about leadership, the time was not focused on student success.
I got empowering those in positions to lead and teach,
But celebrate and affirm Newburgh County Public Schools, so that kind of goes to that.
making sure decisions from our board reflect the needs of our community. Things outside of our community.
Yeah.
Learn and listen to community.
Community.
I also what I said to make sure all children were and felt welcome.
I have keep students, teachers, staff safe.
Yeah, like community one.
I was super concrete with mine, I think, not inspirational at least. I wrote like promote school district stability.
Oh, no,
That's right, it's
fine.
concrete, but it's also,
That stability to stabilize the district in turmoil.
Yeah,
yeah,
To support policies that are necessary and effective. And then assist with leadership selection and direction, and that just has to be with our women employee.
I've got advocate on behalf of citizens, students, families, etc., and also serve my community.
Will advocate, stand with those, for those who need a voice.
Giving the district support it needs to do their job. Provide common sense direction for staff. Fiscal responsibility.
On a practical sense, I'm an educator, I have some background in education, and I also. My day job, working for the state, I have a little background in policy, so it felt like a good fit. To be able to use those experiences for the community.
I have to give perspective as an educator as well.
I just thought of, I am a product of public schools.
Yeah,
Not specific for a little bit.
public school is important. Yeah.
yes. Three of us are product of here, aren't we?
Hey, Ben, huh? I'm a public school.
Oh, graduate. At least one else graduated every night.
Just us three? Oh,
I'm a Salem boy.
oh, yeah, you are. I just have to help guide our future to make sure we are going the right direction, so.
Okay, Julian, give us the themes again.
Okay, we have loving schools, making sure students thrive.
Yeah.
Educated citizens, promoting democracy, supporting public schools. Community and those that need a voice, advocacy. Fiscal responsibility, leadership. School stability. And then this is also, I guess, more leadership, empower, policy, keep positions to lead and teach. Community, policies. Those with educator backgrounds, guidance for the future. Safety.
So I wanted to do that mostly because I think it's important as we move forward. What tonight's all about is for us to kind of put together our board agreements and kind of how we want to work together. And I think it's important to know, one, what's our purpose? And then two, what's your purpose? which is why did you come to, why are you sitting on this board? And what are you hoping to, give our community? So I appreciate, again, you all know your service is incredibly valuable and you spend a lot of time at it, so we appreciate that. But I also think it's interesting just to see why, what are all the reasons why we're here? The power of a strong board and superintendent team, why this is important. I mean, I think this district sees better than, as a great example of why leadership matters in an organization. Your leadership, my leadership, incredibly important as we're moving forward. The couple of things going on, these aren't new to you. Board members are leaving due to hostile environments. We live in a weird spot. We need to have teamwork and a working arrangement that's gonna help us manage those spaces. Average length of a superintendent is 3 years right now. That was several years ago when that research was done. That's incredible. How do we have the kind of stability in a district without having some longevity? Getting caught up with distractions, you know, lots of stuff happens at us. Are we losing track of those things that we just talked about that we want to achieve? Projecting of adult issues instead of remaining focused on what's important for kids right now. So I think this just brings up why this is so important. There's a positive impact. There's research around the positive impact of the board on student achievement. There's lots of research around student superintendents and principals, the way in which we lead and the way in which we try and keep chaos out of the organization leads to better student achievement. The attainment of our goals, which is when the community has trust in us, we can get bonds, we can build things that are better for our kids. So us having stable, strong board superintendent working relationships is important. The impact on staff morale. Boy, when I got here in October, it was a challenging environment. I will, again, I just want to give a shout out to Paula. I know she's gonna hate it, but again, the work that happened over the summer was really good work. And the fact we were able to kind of have a positive school year really came out to kind of how the administrators, the staff, and everybody worked together to make this year a good one. And we actually, our end of the year staff closing meeting, auditorium presentation, the word's escaping me right now, but the end of the year meeting was really positive. Crystal Apple? Yeah, it was Crystal Apples, and it was a really positive way to go out on summer after kind of what was a tough year, and so that's a testament to this. Superintendent longevity, I don't know why I put that in twice.
Weird.
The power of teams, better decisions, really, having diverse perceptions is good. That's how we make better decisions, builds morale through a sense of belonging, increases productivity, allows for personal growth and innovation. Again, us having a strong team is super important for how we're gonna work together. Okay, think about this. We're gonna do this quickly because this isn't it was one of the assignments, but I wanna just kind of have a quick discussion about this. Think about the best team you've ever been a part of. What was the purpose? What made them great? What habits did the teams possess? What was their mindset? And instead of doing we're just gonna have a discussion about it really quick about, like, what were the great teams that you were on? What were the characteristics of those great teams? I was gonna give you a little, I was trying to give my 7 seconds of wait time, but when you're ready, we can start the discussion, but I don't want to jump into it too quickly.
I don't know if mine even falls into there, but there's a clear understanding what the end goal is. So I don't know if it really falls into one of the bullets, but if you don't know what your end goal is, then it's hard to form a team and understand your purpose. So.
Working for each other. Like not having a solo show, just like, we might have different things going on, but at the end of the day, I'm here to help you, and I hope you're here to help me when I need it, because that's what, in my experience, has made really, really good teams, is having that shared even if it's not an individual goal, just knowing that we want the end of the day to be a happy place and not a struggle for anyone.
I was thinking it very similarly, but kind of related, believing in each other.
Mhm.
Being on the same team and also believing that we can get where we wanna go.
To trust too.
There actually might be somebody in leadership position, but they're all equals. Right?
Their leadership, very average.
Have flexibility, like each member has some openness. You know,
You said trust.
Mhm.
What do you mean by that?
Trusting each other, so trusting each other as team members, I think. All being equal, but also trusting the hierarchy and the systems in place and trusting leadership. And I think there's also. That team trust also relates to the team buy-in, that we are all here for the stated goal. Or that the team is all bought in on where we need to go as a team.
And I'll follow on that, assume good intentions is always one that has been an important part of teams that I've been on that have worked well.
Communication.
Mhm.
Communication.
Exactly.
You only have to write it once.
What?
Unless you're Dave.
I'm doing it.
To the third power.
Collaboration.
Yes. Not groupthink.
To not have groupthink, what do you have to have?
Everything else we're talking about, but. Communication, collaboration. Again, not having somebody feel like they're inadequate, everybody's equal.
The trust to challenge each other.
Yeah,
What was that?
Well, going back, someone said trust, but the trust to challenge each other or the trust to be challenged. That they're not doing it out of, to make you look bad is,
Mhm. They may have a question.
Yeah, I think,
or tell me my idea is dumb, like I'd rather hear it from here than the public.
Mhm.
well, and that trust, I think a lot of things go along with that, like trusting that if I have an idea, that it won't be laughed at, that like, every idea is a good enough idea to bring up and we can have a conversation. Also trusting that you don't have to double check everyone's work, that you can do your own
Yeah.
thing, knowing that, everyone's working hard, and that trust, I think, helps the end goal be a lot better.
Mhm.
In my industry, when a new team comes together, we actually sit down for like a half day and do a team agreement.
Mhm.
Go through everything from how meetings are ran and handled, escalation policies, communication. What the definition of done is, et cetera, so.
That's a great segue.
I have two more things.
Yeah.
So two more things that I think are like, I don't know if it's like good to great. I know that's a book that's got its own stuff
Yeah.
associated with it, but celebrating.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yes.
was into that, noting achievement.
Yeah, like taking the
Bringing
time to do
snacks.
that. That's it, yeah. And then intentionally seeking out perspectives that are not present. Right, I think that's particularly important when we are representing a community that's as diverse as Newburgh. Those were two other things that came in.
Excellent. I wanted to talk a little bit about, Patrick Lencioni wrote one of my favorite books called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. What it talks is about what are the characteristics of high performing teams? And at the very bottom of this triangle is, and he wrote it in the negative, so it was like dysfunctional teams have an absence of trust, but functional teams have trust. And it's interesting because of the second thing is conflict, which is great teams don't agree all the time, and that's important. Because the conflict of ideas, it's important that we test ideas, because if we decide something here and there's an obvious flaw to it, it goes out to the organization and we're gonna hear all about it. So it's important that we seek out those diverse attitudes and ideas and make sure that so I like the fact that we don't always agree. We have some unanimous votes, but we also have some votes that are not. There's the opportunity. So that ability to conflict is really important. We need to be committed. I think I heard some concepts here about, it's like, once we get going, we all need to work hard and be committed to that idea. The lack of accountability, which is we do need to measure, are we making progress? part of what I'll try and work in this year is with the board goals and my goals to give you some interim, like where are we at? Are we halfway through the goal, or are we just quarter, like we'll give you some assessments of that. Last is, hey, we need to pay attention to our results. No matter what, we're here, this is about kids learning, and that learning may be in some of the traditional student achievements, OSAS. But we have lots of other measures and other ways in which we determine how kids are progressing. We need to be paying attention to all of that and seeing what's going on. So I think it becomes really important for us as we begin to look at this. I think your segue was perfect, is we need to kind of come to some agreement around our team agreements. Building a high functioning team takes intentional action and follows kind of predictable steps. Understanding and discussing the manner in which team members work together is a key activity. So I think what I want to do here is actually skip to the governance structures and kind of talk about what we've done in the past, and then what I wonder what we want to do now. So here is the first agreement that we have done in the past. This is the second.
These are random agreements we have history of, or is it?
This is our last set
Oh, okay.
that we agreed to. And I'm going to the, so OSBA, if you go to their website and they say, give me a sample of board operating agreements, they actually give you two versions. Version 1, version 2. We've actually adopted both. And in looking at this, there's nothing in here that I'm looking at that I don't think I think it's all good. We kind of adopted both of their samples though, and I don't think they cover everything that we might want. I'm gonna pass you out a draft of one I've used before that maybe we could talk about.
Sorry about drawing.
Now, this one has a lot more verbiage. I guess we should wait for Deb to come back. I'll give you a chance to take a read on it real quick. I put a draft in front of you, Deb.
Yeah. Thanks. Did you identify what's different in the?
Not yet.
Oh,
They were just kind of looking it over.
So these are two Newburgh versions we've had, or we do have, and this is Dave's from his prior experience.
So here's what I'm suggesting. I think neither of these completely talks about what the board's role is, what my role is. One of them kind of talks about how we're going to behave, which I like. This one kind of says board roles and responsibilities, but it doesn't really go into the board role. So the draft that I handed you out basically gives a purpose. It gives kind of what the board's role is, what the role of board leadership is, what my role is. And then it goes into kind of some norms around the meeting operations and decision making, respect to starting time, ending times. I'll do my best. Attend regularly, it's a scheduled board meetings unless prevented by sickness, but it kind of gives some norms. And then after it kind of goes through and talks about communication. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about communication coming up next, but. And we can subtract anything you want, but I thought this did a little better job, like when a board member receives an informal complaint, so this is F5. Listen carefully and empathetically, direct the person to solve the problem at the lowest level. Formal complaints must be put in writing, so it just kind of goes through and gives 7, when the board receives communication from the community, the chair will respond or delegate that responsibility to another board member. It just puts into words actually how we're going to behave, that I kind of like that we're defined, that's just defined. And we can add and subtract whatever you want. I just put it in front of you because I think it maybe does a little better job on outlining what you want your agreements to be in behavior. And with that, I just open it up to a conversation for you to know what you think and what you like and what you don't like.
I like how concise it is, it covers a lot, not everything.
I really like communication section.
Yeah.
I think having that more formalized and just, this is the way that it should go is, I think, helpful. As well, when community members may want to have more input or have you do something, just, well, you know, I really am trying to keep to a standard here, but this is the way that it should go. I really enjoy that.
On the communication part, it maybe add 7 to say when, when the board, or like 7, 8 is very specific. When a single board member receives communication, like 7, I think we need to make sure, like, if maybe more than one person, I don't know, just be more explicit on what a board communication is versus a single board member.
What I will tell you is my plan with this would be to bring it back in August to first read.
Okay.
And then make suggestions and then I'll
Okay.
will add, subtract, or do whatever. I just wanted to know if this was the direction that you wanted me to take as far as kind of drafting up what your board agreements would be, the board superintendent agreements would be. It sounds like, yes,
Yeah.
this is a good direction for us to go. And if you have ideas and you want to shoot those to me, I can make those adjustments. This was evolved over time. It will continue to evolve. I will say the other thing, well, I think it's somewhere in here, but I'll just say it out. I'm your employee. So the violation of these norms are something that that's something that you have to work with yourself on. It's not something that I'm gonna call a board member and say, you violated the norms, and this is something that the board needs to actually have conversations themselves about. I don't mind being part of that or helping, it's just that I'm your employee in that case. And so at that point, it's the board chair, the vice chair, beginning to open up conversations. And there's a set of steps laid out of what to go through. I don't think that's an issue for us, but still you may want to define what that looks like. And I know I have somewhere here, I don't know, I have a thing. Hang on, let me get to it. I'm gonna come back to some of this. I went out of order, didn't I, ladies?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Really.
It appears so. We adapted.
We're adapting the board agreement, not go out of order.
Some silent pivoting this time.
So this might be a way in which a board might address, like, if the somebody is not following the working agreements. There'd be first, like the board chair, vice chair would have a private conversation with the individual, find out what's going on, get their side of it, that whole piece. There might be a small group dialogue if there's multiple people who are involved with it. It's probably, again, you can't have a quorum unless you wanna post a meeting, but there may be a way to, that might be appropriate. Probably coming back together again to reaffirm that, no, we agree, this is the way we wanna do things, these are the working agreements, does everybody agree with that? Yes. After that, it's censure, and there's a specific way in which that happens on a board, but that is available, that's there. And then, in the end, it comes back to, the voters making a choice about what that happens. But I think it's important to see that as we're making these, because of, again, that's your agreements on how you wanna work together.
And I think this is a really important component, you know, if I look back to previous years and how the board interacted. I always think these are important to have before a problem hits. And that what I have found with the last couple of years, we've worked really diligently within our board to be respectful and follow some of these agreements. But it's when you most need it that it's nice to have this in place. So I think that this is a piece that we need to add in anticipation that there may be some day when this happens. I think obviously step 4 is a challenging one, especially if you're gonna have a public censure. We're all elected officials, you know, and these are agreements, but that doesn't necessarily hold us to that standard. And step 5, that may or may not become, you know, the next choice, but I lean towards putting this in, something like this into place sooner rather than later.
I would agree. I think my biggest question is, we talk about, look at this, we'll present something later. I just wonder if later we'll have time to discuss it. It feels like when something like this comes up in a regular board meeting, it's, you know, well, it's 8:45, we need to get going. And so I don't know, is this the time to have a longer discussion on this? Do we have another, once we have something larger drafted up, do we have one of those second meetings where we can have a more?
I think I'd like to bring it back to you, and now that I know that's an interest, Saul, why don't we structure a conversation just specifically about this? Either in a work session or in a, I mean, we could do it in a regular session too, but.
And I mean, I think it's all great, it feels like sometimes we read it quickly on paper 2 or 3 times and it still doesn't do more than having it on paper. So I think this, having that discussion could help us all understand the communication between us better.
It also helps the public. I know, Beaverton just recently, I think, had a censure somebody on their school board, and I got calls from other people who didn't understand how that worked and what that meant, and I had to explain what the process was. And ultimately, that's up to the voters to remove someone. And I think that if we spell it out for not only ourselves, but it's also ultimately for the public that we're accountable to, so that they understand the process too.
And I would even say just like less serious than that, you know, obviously if we get there, we should be aware of what's happening, but just even the more informal aspects of this, that we all can have that discussion. Because it just, there's certain things, like an email comes in, you know, are we all on the same page? I know you read it, but this isn't gonna be answered by you individually, it came to everyone, those kind of things. I just think it would be good to speak out loud with each other. I like the 1 page rather than 2.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I'll bring that back and I'll structure some time for us to have a conversation and probably the next board meeting. We're starting to already fill up some agendas, but I'll work on that.
Thank you.
Okay, I gotta go back because I went a little bit out of order. So I want to talk about communication and just get your feedback around this because of, again, we've got communication that goes from me to you, you have communication that goes from you to me, you have communication that goes between each other, you have communication between the board and the community. And currently, this is kind of what I've been doing is trying to push out Friday updates. You'll get not only our community one, but periodically I'll be pushing out if I have information to pass, or I try to get it each week. It got a little sketchy there near the end of the year. I think it was probably once a month. You get a memo out. I'll do interim updates as needed. I'll do text during crises. We'll do phone calls to keep you up to date on pieces. I want to begin to schedule some either one-on-ones, one-on-two kind of meetings. Just so you have a chance to come in and ask questions about things that you're wondering in a informal setting. I've done this both, we did this here at this district and we also did it in my former district. It was a really good time to kind of talk about things and learn, you know, hey, I don't understand this is going on, what's happening and it's just a nice way to do it. I'd like to start getting those scheduled, but I wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to kind of talk about it. What do you think about our communication so far? And specifically between us, between each other, are there some things that you want to do differently? And we'll copy down kind of what you were saying. At least I'm back on track.
Well, I'd like to start with sort of the communication between the board chair and vice chair and the board. It's been interesting the last couple of years. Nancy and I, you know, it's an interesting dynamic, the board, because leadership is isolated with some of the leadership conversations that happens. And I think board members are isolated from the information that's happening that we can't talk to people about. I don't anticipate it'll be sort of the same dynamic in the next year because a lot of the stuff that Nancy and I were dealing with last year and James, we don't anticipate to have. But it does feel like there's a big room for improvement in how I would communicate with the board about things. So I've asked Dave to sort of help me think about that. I know that I come to it from a very cautious perspective based on our historical, you know, all of our complaints and, you know, don't want to have any, you know, concern about meeting outside of meetings and making sure that it's information that, you know, is legal to have in emails. So, and sometimes, and I'm gonna pick Saul, because you voice it, you are so good to voice it, like, I don't know that we should be having, like, we've all been so thrown into the fire in a way that has been really, I think, disruptive to good communication. So that's my goal for this year, is a better way of communicating with the board as a whole outside of the board meetings in a way that is legal and, you know, and I hate these, please do not respond to this email, but in big red letters, but you know, that is one thing that is easy to sort of trip off on. So I've asked Dave to sort of help me think about that. If you guys have ideas, I know that back in the day, board chair would send out weekly updates to the board members, and I don't know to what extent that that's important, but you might be interested in knowing that I was asked to go speak at XYZ on, you know, about school boards, or that I was asked to participate in this or that. So that for me personally is a big goal of how to be a better communicator and not be be afraid of communicating.
I appreciate all of that and thank you for sharing all that with us. I think that I would love to know more of what board leadership does. I think that's actually kind of part of our hesitancy of like who's gonna be chair and vice chair, because I know that we're all strapped for time and we're all overwhelmed, but I also, it's kind of this unknown to me. I don't really know how much extra time you put in and what you have to work on.
It was really unknown to me 2 years ago.
So I think that might help
So,
bring
yeah.
more
Yeah.
willingness of us to, you know,
I
all these
appreciate
things. I also come into communication within the board with a really hesitant and honestly fearful mind. I mean, we've all seen and experienced things that make it hard to feel confident in anything that we're doing outside of this setting. And I too would like to feel more confident in how I communicate, and I know that the do not reply all is probably tedious, but I do appreciate it because then I know. I don't have to question it, I don't have to, I also really appreciate when you respond to a community member, or, you know, when Dave does, it just says like, I am responding on behalf of the board. I think that over communication is helpful and helps breed that confidence that I think we're all seeking, that confidence in communication.
Well, I think it helps us all feel more connected to the work that we're doing. No.
Yeah, I would love that, just mini updates on things that are happening that, so it's, you know, not just at the board meeting we hear about necessarily. I live in a fearful mindset of ever talking to any of you outside of this room, in an unhealthy way, and so know that if I ignore you outside of here, it's because my mind is just, nope, we're now people that only talk in this room.
Well, and it's funny because when we were at the market.
Yeah.
Yes, so I ran into Aubrey and I ran into Saul and I'm like, hi, how's your dog? You know? Bye.
Or like, I'll see you guys talking, I'm like, okay, well, I won't go say
Yeah.
hi.
And it is so awkward because outside of being part of this board, like that's not how our community really is. I mean,
Right.
so, you know, we are trying to be mindful and just for, especially for the newer folks, just understand that that has come to us from living it for 2 years in a very traumatic, I would say traumatic way. And so it is, really a protective mechanism that we were sort of much more closed in. And of course, we were dealing with things that we really couldn't talk.
And there's good reasons for.
Yeah.
Also making it a priority to not be, oh, hey, we're all doing this thing together.
Yes,
There's
yeah.
real reasons for that.
Well, I think a couple of things. I mean, one, clear is kind, right? And we're hearing that theme, but also, I think, yes, as someone who's been a community member during the last couple of years, I can see the need to rebuild trust. I think probably as we have some new board members, we're sort of figuring out how each other works. I think we can trust each other, but we're still working that out. So it'll take us some time to build some internal trust, I think, too. Not that it's not there, just that it's got to be fortified.
Well, and we don't have the luxury of institutional knowledge on our board. You know, there are board members that were on the board for, you know, decades and knew all the sort of the steps and all the things and. It just feels like we've just been thrown into we were thrown into the deep end without really having good guidance. So I think we've done a good job for what we were trying to do, but there's just a lot of, like, me personally have a lot of, room for improvement. So.
I'm curious what, as someone relatively new to the board, what would be helpful for me in terms of my own communication?
Can you give an example of what you want to communicate? Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, my question is, I don't know what I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think it's safe to go to Dave or board leadership to.
Yeah.
Broach a subject, figure out what would be appropriate or not, I think. And that idea of the blind leading the blind, I'm not gonna give you any advice outside of trust the people who are more in charge than, you know, the rest of us,
Yeah.
because I lean on you guys and Dave to, you know, make this meeting not have a problem. I can only do so much except maybe say something, and then I just have to believe that we're doing it the right way, because I don't know until I know.
And Dave can attest that I have been stressing about it, and we've been talking, and we've been, and so I appreciate the calls and the questions. And sometimes, I may not, you know, obviously know, and I'll be have to go on and think about that, but, yeah, so I think you've done a great job.
Well, I'm also like, the process is, I get that. I mean, I get being in touch with Dave as superintendent, I get being in touch, I get that part, but maybe I'll address this to you too specifically. Is there some kind of communication that you would like to get from each board member that you're?
Oh, I see.
From us?
This is already in my mind from before your question, and I think it relates a little bit. And this is not a diss to you or James at all, but I remember the first few months of us coming together as a new board. We were asking, I remember, I believe it Nancy kept asking, or hell, maybe even Dr. Phillips. But it was like, hey, what, do you have any topics for the agenda? But then that stopped. Now, again, it could have been because we were in the firestorm and we had to fight for our lives, whatever. But that was like one disconnect I think would be great, is like how, if you have topics to bring. That's something I think we need to identify and create an agreement of how to do that. I don't know. And when I talked to Dave, he probably wanted a 30-minute meeting, turned out to be an hour and a half because of stuff I brought up. So I think there's just I think that could be part of our communication agreement. Personally, I don't think I wanted a report from everybody from every once a month or every week, say, hey, I did this or did that. It's just, that's where we can give our public comments, right? So.
I have two thoughts. I think a lot about processes and streamlining things and whatnot.
Yeah.
So something like agendas, I think like, okay, well, sometimes we get an updated, what's coming up sort of thing. Like we got a couple of those. But like, could we all be viewers on a Google Doc that has those things? And does that, if we're just viewing a document, is that okay? Is that allowed? I mean, with those things, I think that I think perhaps we could increase our use of technology, but then I know that gets weird with, with all this. So I love a process and I love streamlining things, because I also don't want to bug Dave or Deb or somebody just to find something that I could go find on the Google Drive. So that's one that I have on that. Another thought I have is I like to know, what communication style works best for the people that I'm working with. And like, I think with Deb, there's been a couple times where I will text Deb and say, are you available for a phone call? And I feel like that is something that you and I are both comfortable with. With Dave, I haven't really asked, like, do you want us to text you that? Do you want us to send you an email? Like,
So
I'm
I wouldn't send me an email. Mostly just because of.
yeah, it'll just.
I try to block my time, like I don't read my emails. I'm trying to do work and then I do email. Texting, you can get me pretty much 24/7 or a phone call. So I know other folks, I'll text them, hey, can I call you? Are you available for a call? That kind of thing. I love that. Mostly if I'm in a meeting or whatever, I'll let you know, that kind of thing. Email is mostly for me if you have some things you want me to know and you want to make sure you get your thoughts down on a piece of paper. I think that's great. But if you need me immediately, and my phone is never more than about 3 feet from me, and you pay me to do that. And so that's what's there.
I think going back to like the clearest kind of thing, I'm a person that I will text and I will say, are you available for a phone call? This is not important. Please wait, or, if something is really important, I'm gonna state that. And I think all of us just sort of committing to those clear communication things.
I want to go back to the agenda if we can, because one of the last activity is actually propose some agenda items. Us sharing our board agenda year-long calendar, really easy.
Yeah.
I'll probably make you commenters on it.
Yeah.
So that like if there's something you want to see, you can comment. If you see a problem, you can comment, rather than making changes directly to the document. But that's not, you have every right to be able to view the board agenda. And there's a year-long version of it, so you can begin to say, oh, looks like January 10th is getting a little crowded. Can we move some stuff around? I think that's all totally appropriate.
Is this on Google?
Yeah.
Is there a way to make it private for the comments? Because technically I can see where you can go down a rabbit hole on people commenting back and forth.
Yeah, that would be
Yes.
That's.
Exactly.
let me think on that a little bit, yeah, because we wouldn't want folks to.
I think there's an anonymous setting. I just don't know
Well-
if that allows you to see it or.
Even if we couldn't comment to view it,
Yeah, just to be, I mean, that's the first layer.
Communicate in an email to you. or-
Yeah, that's first layer.
I think also too, like with the Google, if we had a Google Drive or something that had maybe, and then we have like our website that has all the public documents, but like an easy reference for us, for the same documents that have gone to the public, like. And if that might be easier, rather than go to the website, like what, then there's been times in the past where I'm like, what month was that we talked about that? And I have to go back to that month,
Yeah.
both the minutes, but if we had board calendar, we had, you know, agendas, like just, and it was organized so we could quickly, and there's no problem with that. For, you know, meeting, if it's already stuff that's out there to the public.
Like resolutions would be a great example.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the program that you were talking to me about, the board management?
Board book.
Ooh.
So board book is a.
Looking for, I know, I got excited too.
Board book is a program basically set up to do all of this work. It's you log into it, board members use it, the board secretary uses it, and it gives kind of just I've not worked for a district that has it, but I know lots of districts that do, many of them right around us. And it's a very, I mean, we can look into that if that's of interest.
Yeah.
It's pretty slick product. And like right now, we upload PDF, different PDFs to your board packet, and there's lots of stuff. Takes a lot of work the board book just kind of takes a lot of that out of it, because it's all one place, one format. Here's where it is.
And we talked about the potential of all of us having a Chromebook.
Yeah, so starting, I would have done it earlier, but the ones that we had, I don't think would have met your needs. But we will get you Chromebooks, and we'll kind of digitize this process so that you have it. In my former district, folks use their own computers at home, but when you came here, your Chromebook was there, it was all set up, all you did is log in, it went right to the board packet. I mean, it was kind of all set for you to interact. and
I love it too.
do your thing.
I mean, I do love paper, but I love it, when we were talking about it, I thought it would just be really easy to sort of track the agenda. And all the documents.
Yeah.
And the board book, I think, is something to look into. Anything that sort of helps us stay connected and.
Yeah, I love it.
The State Board of Education uses Board Book, so if folks wanna go peruse the State Board website, you can get a feel for what Board Book does.
Is it the software by diligent.com?
I think, but I don't even know what the cost is, I just know that we hadn't purchased it, but, again, we pay for software that serves a great purpose. I mean, it's not like we don't pay for some software packages in our district. So if this is something that's important, we can do some discovery and find out what the cost is and kind of go from there. It would simplify some things for everyone, I think.
Yeah.
If I could, I'd just say that, I feel like when you have called, it's always with information that is pertinent. I guess I wanna say I don't, every Friday doesn't need to be if there's not anything to say, if that makes sense. So I've appreciated that. I do think one-on-one meetings or 2-to-1 meetings is a great idea as well. I'd be interested in how, I guess, that goes, what the overall goals are, if it's a regularly scheduled kind of meeting. I'm interested in that. In my head, I don't know that it's necessary, like, I'm thinking on a regular month and not like, oh, I really wish I had, 30 minutes of your time, because I really have some things I wanna say. But knowing sometimes there are those moments where, I wish we did have a set time that, oh, we don't need this week, this month. Well, we each have 30 minutes back.
I think what I've seen in the past is we regularly schedule them. And we set them, we've set them at times that are convenient for the board members. So for a lot of you, that would be 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, that kind of thing. I think it's easier to schedule them ahead of time, and then for you to say, hey, I don't need one this week. It's easier for me, I mean, you're fraying my calendar.
Yeah.
If I don't get it on my calendar, then it gets really hard to schedule as we get into it, and then you get me it's more the, phone call, you know, like I gotta make phone calls for it. I find it valuable most because I think it gives you a chance to ask some questions about the organization that are a little more, like I can answer questions that just you have. Like you're curious about how this works and why do we do it this way? It just gives me a chance to kind of talk about some more the organization in a different way is all.
Are you hoping to have these weekly, monthly?
Monthly, usually it'd just be once a month that we kind of, and I would normally kind of just pull stuff together as the month is going on, okay, hey, here's what I need to make sure I talk to board members this month about, and just kind of assemble up, and you would do the same of like, hey, here's some questions I had, you know, why do we do X at the high school? Why is that a thing? It's not something maybe you want to ask in the meeting, but you still want to get, like, I don't understand it. And sometimes there's a lot of times there's some good questions that get asked that, like, we didn't think about. Yeah, I will say again, I brought it up the other day, but our budget member who kind of questioned the transportation costs have got Nate and I making a meeting with the transportation folks to say, hey, we're help us understand this. And, you know, we weren't necessarily looking into it that deep, but yet that one question got us kind of saying, okay, we need to go back and at least test this and find out why is it? Why are our transportation costs per student higher than some of the folks around us? There may be a reason for it, but that's why I think those meetings become kind of interesting.
I don't know if it would be something to put into this agreement, but I think. Especially getting started, like what is appropriate for those conversations, because like obviously there's still things that. Like personnel, we're not gonna talk about personnel in those meetings, but just having a better idea on, you know. I guess. Yeah, what's appropriate, what's good use of that time.
Yep. Any other thought? This is great. There was lots of stuff about kind of our different communications. Any other thing we want to talk about communication? Okay. I'm moving ahead to. We do the working agreements. Board goals, board superintendent goals. Want to take a quick 5 minute?
Okay.
I think I just have 2 activities left.
Okay,
We are just 5 in the home, but
and there's still more treats in the freezer if you need a
so just
refill.
be 5.
Yep. You know, so there's restrooms in there and then the kitchen is just right to the. You need another little treat.
I don't need to get it on.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really not, I'm gonna have.
Are you gonna mute us during the break? All right, we're back from our break. All right, Dave, we have board superintendent goals.
So I wanted to talk a little bit, I just passed out, what we adopted last year for our board goals, but I wanted to talk you through working with, one of my mentors, Mike Scott, who's working with, the former superintendent at Hillsborough, is working with many boards right now. And one of the things that he's been kind of, working on is really this idea about, I'm stuck in there. Kind of, that the board and the superintendent set shared goals. And that it's just like we have different parts of the organization, the goals are the same, but like our responsibilities are different. And so that we create, so like you've given me. I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that. These were the feedback that I got in my evaluation around things that you would like to see me work on. Public communications and visibility, strategic planning and community engagement, long-term financial stability, instructional focus and student achievement. I'm glad that we broke that last one up too, because it's really important because of student achievement is an end, it's an assessment of something. It's something that comes at the end of instruction. And so for us to focus, it really bothers me when people focus on, we want this test score, because of you get the test score by doing something else well. And we need to be focused on what we're doing else. So it's important to me that we kind of distinguish between that. But those are the 4 goals. So I can tell you right now that my goals this year will be those in those 4 areas. So I will bring you superintendent goals that are around those things. I also think that is exactly the right work. That is exactly where we're focused right now in trying to move forward with this district. The question for you is like, the goals that we set last year were basically 1, increase academic achievement. And then you kind of have some board priorities, provide a safe, optimal learning environment, encourage parental and community involvement, quality educators, manage the budget effectively, properly manage the bond, support for extracurricular, safe, reliable transportation system. I probably know what year though that popped into your goals. And then support the career and technical ed. So my question is, I need a little guidance because I'll prep a set of goals and prep something for you to have a discussion at in one of the next board meetings. But where do you want me to go with this? I'd like to go where we have shared, where those things that we're writing, kind of things that you're working on, and things that I'm working on. But I don't know if that's what you want me to do.
I really like that idea. I'd probably be interested in hearing from your perspective what the board's role in some of those is. Like, it's easy for me to think about public communications and visibility, the strategic planning. I'm not sure as much what a board member would do around financial stability and instructional focus and achievement. I think I would need some guidance and understanding.
It's oversight. And so
Okay.
it's really about, again, I need to bring you back ongoing reports about how that's happening. And then for you to be able to provide the oversight and the questions to say, why are we not making progress on this? Why are we? That's where I would see a lot of your work is, and specifically around the instructional focus, that would be, again, some of the things that we're working on. What are the things we're working on? How is it beginning to play out? I mean, I know from our test scores, it's really interesting because of, if you look at our local assessments, they're telling us a completely different thing than the state assessment's telling us. And so there's some really interesting things, I'm stealing Holly's thunder because we'll be presenting this in August, but, there's some really, interesting data coming out now about how our kids are doing. And we have conflicting, assessments that are saying different things, so, it'll be a really interesting, August and September. I can't remember when are we presenting, it's August?
I don't know because we've just thrown so many things in the agenda for August.
Yeah.
August, September, we could do either.
Yeah. But that's what would be is your responsibilities are really the oversight parts of it. And then I will also tell you that like my goals will become the cabinet goals. And so like teaching and learning in our federal programs and the rest, this instructional focus and student achievement, that'll be their goal. That I'll be working with them on achieving. So again, I'm trying to create this place where we're throughout the organization, from the board right down to the classroom, everybody knows what we're working on and how we're going about doing it. And there's not different sets of goals for different groups.
I'm interested in how we make some of these things measurable. Like, number 4, for instance, instructional focus, student achievement. It seems simplistically, one would lead to the other. Where we measure instructional focus by student achievement, I don't think that actually always makes sense, that those things are separate for a reason. That student achievement isn't necessarily the state test scores, there's other ways to measure that. What are we gonna do? There's certain strategic planning that makes sense, like, hey, by this time, we want to have a committee set up, we wanna do these things. Yeah, I think it's easy to set goals and hard to set measurable ideas.
I think whatever goals we're setting, they have to have a measurement. So basically, we're setting it, you have to be able to measure it. Now, there may be some different ways for us to measure it. What I think is interesting, our student assessments are important. And so that is always going to be a measure, both our state and our local assessments. But there's also other things going on right now, which is we've now been pushing folks into PLC training. Well, how many folks have taken that? What are they learning? How much we're working with principals right now and talking about the PLC work that teachers are going to be doing during the school year. Like, how do we report back how that's going? Some of that may be some attendance stuff. There's also some documents. There's some the word's not coming to me right now, but there's some artifacts of the teachers as they're working that is, again, an assessment of kind of what's happening there. But that will be part of the work, Saul, is that we don't set a goal unless you can measure it.
I was gonna say this, I mean, the goals and Jennifer, and just make sure we're all aligned on this, that this will lead to your evaluation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if this has been done in districts or not, and maybe the term may be lost on some, I don't know, but OKRs, objectives and key results. And it's still written in a smart fashion, but like, it's a goal of public communication visibility. There could be multiple objectives under there, and then what is your target for those? Is how I would, when we were talking before the whole Phillips thing, I knew I threw it to these, Deb and Nancy, I'm like, I wanna build an OKR thing for the board and just so we can evaluate, but that never happened, so.
I don't disagree with your comment.
Okay.
The only thing that I know is we're still shorthanded in trying to, like, how deeply we get. I think the idea is still a good one. If we have a goal, we need to have measurements, and we need to try and figure out good measurements of these pieces. So I think that's solid. But I think it's also something for us to evolve into. I guess I'm just trying to.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
No, yeah, right. I think that's the tough part, like, what's the difference between quantitative outcomes and qualitative? They're both important. How do we separate that up beforehand so that we're not basing outcomes on what works better at the end? No, I don't, I feel like this should be a conversation with us, with you. It just, I don't have an answer.
Right.
And that's the tough thing. I'm not expecting anyone to have it right now. Just, I don't know how to go.
I will say the other problem that we have in the superintendent evaluation is you're writing mine in March. And so some of these assessment results, you're not gonna have until the August after it's done. So there's a little bit of a timing issue on some of these pieces. But still doesn't mean that we can't take the data and then write the goals. There's just a little bit of challenge with some of it.
And so, obviously, Andy brought up a good point to me within the last month about expressed an interest in having us meet in all the schools as a board meeting. And I talked with Dave about that, the logistics, but that is clearly an easy identifiable goal of public communication and visibility is to be out there in the community. And the idea of meeting with parent groups and, building those relationships, those are some identifiable things that we can be doing from the board's perspective. And so sort of building that into the, what did you say? OKR.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that's good.
So I have a question about this document and these. So on this document here, we've just got basically one goal, which is to increase academic achievement, and then the list of board priorities, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but then if I understand this correctly, we're kind of discussing having more board goals that would be the same as your superintendent goals, right? So that we're all on the same page. So we
I
have
think so.
multiple goals.
Yes.
Which I like, cause although academic achievement, is huge bit, I think that it's valuable for us to have more than just that as our main goal for the year. How are you all feeling about the board priorities? And is that something that we feel like we need to keep documented, or how does that fit in?
If my memory serves, we didn't really have a lot of ownership in this document. I believe this was presented to us our first year,
Yeah, I think it was.
and none of us really had any sort of understanding of how to put together the goals. And so, that's just for context of how this,
I thought it was adopted like in March before everything happened. It was late into.
yeah.
Dr.
One idea that we could do is, have the complementary board goals that go with your goals that are translated. Obviously, you have long-term financial stability, ours is manage the budget, do create stability, right? And then we could have those be our board goals, matching complementary ones, and then board priorities could be more short-term things, like we could take, obviously, like you talked about the transportation system, that was very much a point in time that was important that year. The bond, things like that, we're really wrapping those down, and it could be this year, could be changing more of those, change year by year. So this year could be work towards redistricting or whatever it is, right, that we're talking about. Or if one year there is a levy, work on managing the levy, and those could be the priorities, could be very specific things that are like moment in time or more acute and things that came up, and then the board goals should be, I think, in my opinion, more like these are long-term directions that we're going, and then priorities could be, hey, this is what came up now that we need to work on that are more specific in time.
The more I look at these priorities, like they're like vague and overarching, yet at the same time like missing I'm not seeing, I haven't read them word for word tonight, but I'm not seeing a lot in here about, meeting individual needs of students and meeting the needs of our diverse learners, and that's, the huge kind of gaping hole if somebody were to look at this and say, oh, well, that's not one of your priorities. And I think in our hearts, that is definitely one of our priorities as a board, but it's not listed here, so.
I think these board priorities kind of an attempt to be our mission statement for that time and place. I'm gonna kind of push back on you, James. I think your short-term priorities and your goals for that year should align more. These shouldn't be long-term goals. You should be repetitive every year goals, but these should be very specific. And when you write them out, it should be very specific to that year and time. So.
Yeah, I think I just more meant, I would like to see them obviously complement the superintendent ones, but I'd also like to see some space for those
specific in time things, but how those fall off as we approach different years and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my head, the superintendent goals are our goals that we're
Right.
tasking the superintendent to accomplish.
Yeah.
So they should be ours, and that it is a confusing blank instructional focus. We're not, that's what we're tasking a superintendent to then task out to make sure that's happening. And so, I mean, the only one on there that really is long-term is that financial stability, but I even think that to some degree is this short-term, long-term. Like, obviously, if we want financial stability always, that should always be a priority for all of us. But right now, I think that's on there because of our multi-year desire to get back to an ending fund balance and
Yeah.
furlough days and. But I think it just, because I have also kind of seen these as different, like, oh, what goals do you have? And then realizing, well, these are our goals that we're tasking our employee to
Yeah.
get done.
I am super on board with board goals and superintendent goals being essentially one and the same. They might have slightly different language, you know, but I think you're right. His goals are our goals. The more I look at these board priorities, the more I'm kind of like, I think we were gonna do board priorities. I would like us to spend time on them and have ownership in the process. And not that I disagree with any of these, but if these were presented to you guys once upon a time and some of them are not really relevant to this school year, I think we're gonna have priorities that are written down and adopted by us. We've gotta own that.
What if our priorities were more, going along with what you're saying, Jeremy, about kind of flip flopping that, what if the bar, and what you said, Aubrey, about these are both vague and also not, what if instead, was something that we all worked on together and going back to like that exercise we were doing earlier about like, what is our purpose? What is our purpose here? What is it that we wanted to accomplish and why did we do what we do? And I think maybe something more that reflects that, like you were saying, about making sure that all the student needs are met. And things like that. So go back to your point, Jeremy, I think you're right there. That could be more of something we work on together that is separate from that, like why and what are we doing specifically as a board?
Yeah, these priorities just look like the things that we came in saying we were frustrated about. And not like, we can't focus on quality educators as a board, like that's not, and unless I'm saying this wrong. So there's a lot of things in here that just don't seem like priorities, it's mission statement, Jeremy, I think that makes a lot more sense, this is what we wanted when we came on.
Well, and I'd be interested in knowing if all of our sticky notes, how does that align with these priorities? And we may have just created a skeleton of our board priorities by the work that we did tonight with the ability to, fill it in if we just thought, gosh, we just missed
That
that.
feels more important already.
Yeah.
It's like, looking at the things that you've already just put, like, this is why we came here, and looking at those themes and then writing some priorities as those themes. That already feels, good.
With that, could we, before we finalize that, I do think that public input would be really good, because also, obviously, we have our core priorities, but we are serve the pleasure of the public, so I'd love to see the opportunity before that is done to have public input, even if it is just specifically saying at a board meeting, so say we were gonna finalize this in August. Maybe we won't have, maybe say we were gonna say it was September, right? Maybe our August meeting, we're mentioning this is the direction we're going, here's some things we're coming up with. Please, if the public, if you have anything, either email us or speak it at the next board meeting at our public comment. That way we can, I just think that's.
So I love that, but I'd also be a little more assertive, which is we could throw this out in a thought exchange. And then get feedback, not, throw these out as priorities and have folks like their ideas, hey, what are we missing on our priorities, what would you take out, and then have them put in some real-time information. So here's what's going through my head, maybe if I get two folks that I could just call into it, I can kind of create up a draft, call in two board members to kind of help me craft that draft. And then we bring this back in August with kind of maybe about August to September with some community engagement. either through a thought exchange, also at the board meeting, and then maybe try and finalize this, the end of September. Kind of feels like a timeline we can work with. How does that sound?
I feel like Aubrey's volunteering.
I'm available after July 16th.
Oh, that's all good.
Okay.
We can work that. Give me a chance.
Yeah.
I got a wedding this summer, so
Yeah,
I'm just not
yeah.
counting the days right now, trying to
yes.
figure out how to get it all done.
Well, I like that timeline too, because that aligns with the beginning of the school year,
Mhm.
going into the
Yeah.
new school year. Really setting the tone with the public input of like, this is what we're going to be doing.
I also am a big fan of, well, if we continue to have meetings in this space, or maybe it be a traveling thing, I'm a poster gal. And I'm a visual learner, and I think having our goals visible to us
Mhm.
consistently in front of our faces all the time, or our priorities in front of us. Is valuable, and I think I've, you know,
And the
I
community
can, I
too.
can draw.
why you put
I'll
it in
get
each
on my
office?
guys and do it,
Right,
but.
and for the community, they're
Yeah.
hold us accountable to what we're saying
Exactly,
we're
I
trying to
think
do.
having it in an easily digestible format that is, you know, on the website, on, you know, that we can have, or,
I would say also throw in schools,
yeah.
have a school board in the area if possible. I'm not trying to take up too much space, but I don't think half the people know that we have a school board and what we do. And like, when they drop with their kids, they can read what's happening, so.
Sorry, just like, sidebar, I had a thought in the middle of the night the other night, I woke up, and I thought, what if our student reps in some way, like communicate, like we're liaison us to the student body,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
or like,
I did have a conversation with Dave as well,
we could.
that we have an opportunity to really expand the role of the student reps, because I feel that we didn't really make the ask this year about what we wanted. And I think it would create more robust and interesting role for them. So we've had that conversation, but I just wanna make sure that we're getting Dave a second person, and Celeste, are you willing to be Dave's sort of second person on the draft? Okay.
And that's fine. I was gonna say, if you wanted any, cause I do goals writing all the time. If you want help drafting those into some OKRs, I can take a stab and get it
So
going.
maybe let Aubrey and Celeste do the first run, and then
Yeah.
you can sort of
Yeah.
take it over there after, okay?
Perfect. Sounds good. I'll shoot for kind of middle of August. I'll try and work through some drafts, and then we'll start coming up with, I'll also get a timeline on this, because I gotta get all of this plan, like organized, like when this is all gonna happen. Other work that has to happen here, just so you know that, because this is our purpose and our concern. Lots of folks call it mission and vision. I prefer kind of our purpose, and then what we're promising to deliver for all of us. And so, that work is, you started it tonight. Our administrators, I've already been out working with them around what's our purpose? Why are we here? And we've got to go out to parents. I'll go out to student groups. I'll be working with, I haven't started it yet. I haven't even told Tammy yet, so I don't think she's listening tonight. Superintendent's, student, kind of, feedback group. The name's not coming to me right now, but bringing kids together to sit down and talk about what they want to talk about. And then to start being able to talk about some things that they're wondering about, there are things that they could work on. A lot of times we did stuff at the high school with this group, but just giving them an opportunity to, it's what I took most of the purpose and promise and strategic planning through that team of kids. Work at multiple schools, and but that work is also, and I'm doing a lot of this in parallel because of, we don't really, I don't have 3 years to build this. So we're gonna have to do a lot of, that's why I'm collecting data now on some of this, is like, some of this is gonna have to happen simultaneous to, as we're doing other stuff. So that's work that's gonna happen this year.
How does the timeline interface with the strategic planning within the committee?
I'll get it started I mean, it'll be the fall. The strategic planning, I think, I gotta get through the boundary committee, so really nothing good starts in December. Because there's 2 weeks and people have, so it'll probably be starting up the strategic planning work in January. I think will be the best opportunity for us. The only danger with starting the strategic planning work in January is you gotta make sure that the things that you know you need to have to get built into the budget. But I've done it before where, I mean, we kind of know most of the things that we need to have in this strategic plan around instructional focus and the rest. So we can make sure those elements are being built into the budget as we're creating it. That's the worry that I have about. But my experience is this takes probably 6 months to really go through and do the committee work and get it out to the schools and get feedback and the rest. Okay, I think I've done enough work on that. We're almost done. Board agenda planning. I just want to give us a chance to kind of talk through. I liked your idea, so I'll share out the, as soon as I get a first draft of next year, I'll share out the planning calendar, just so you can see what's on it, and maybe instead of making a comment to the sheet, if you have ideas, shoot those back to me in an email. On that way, you don't have a serial communication going on. But what are, and I have kind of like, these were kind of the areas, kind of policy, instruction, student services, operations, transportation, miscellaneous. What we've been talking about is beginning to get more conversations around what's happening in schools to you. Now, we run the risk of having this kind of like dog and pony show where it's like each school comes up and burns an hour telling you, and we don't want to do that. By the same token, we don't want to not allow our schools to talk about the good work that they're doing.
Right.
So that's what this time was set for, is just to make sure we had a conversation about some of the things you'd like to see and what's helpful and what's not right now. And I think we have folks who will copy down our stuff. I think we're skipping the Skippy, and I think we go straight to the board.
So this isn't necessarily an item, but what I really appreciated about the counselor's report was its candid.
Yeah.
Hey, this is what we're doing, but these are some challenges we have. The first 2 years, it was a dog and pony show and everything was all happy and butterflies and, well, you'd be surprised, but there were unicorns, but this idea that everything was just so happy.
Right.
Right.
And it was great and we want to celebrate, but we also, as a board and as community members, have opportunities to have conversations with people in the community about, boy, you know, it's really challenging what the counseling department is working on. So I encourage the sort of openness that conversation had. So I would also like to hear about challenges. Like if we're talking about attendance, I thought, you know, we've had conversations about how are attendance going, what are we doing to uplift that, but also where are the challenges for kids to get to school? I think that's important for us to know about.
I also really like when I know it doesn't happen for everything, but when there are challenges or things that they think can be, like these groups think can be improved, from action from the board, I love hearing that too, like, you know, yeah, how can we support you, or, you know, even if it's, hey, show up at one of our drives, right, like, we're doing this or this fundraiser, but also sometimes specifically like, well, we are looking for a policy for this, or I'm thinking back to the cell phone issue we were dealing with about a year ago, and we had a lot of discussions around what was needed and what the school needed, and ultimately the school came up with a committee that helped solve it, but it was like, okay, what do you need from us? How do we get there? And I like that too, like, what are the problems and how can we help?
So I've been thinking about this for a while, so, I know they use a template to say how to put their stuff together. And I don't mind a template, that's great, helps them structure what they should present, and, you know, and I don't care if it's once, you know, they all cycle through once a year. I think one, have more updates than once a year, because we only hear from one school each cycle. Two, almost to the challenges, like, it should almost be what challenges are in each of those categories. But what's your biggest policy challenge right now in your school? what are you hearing from parents when they're complaining about this policy, right? Or the biggest problem for student services could be attendance or whatever, you know, and so I just think almost in a way, it's like, and that'd be one thing to do, is put that in the template to have that like challenging section or whatever you wanna call it. But like, how can we assist you? You know, and then also maybe break it down into those like 3 or 4 subcategories. So, but also maybe more instead of once a cycle, maybe quarterly, put something together, so we know what they're facing, and that can be sent out, you know, maybe behind the scenes, doesn't have to be presented, but they can come present like maybe once a cycle, but like,
once a quarter, just
Yeah.
kind of get a state of the schools.
yes,
Well,
exactly.
And if we're going out and we're meeting at the schools, we should be getting that nice sort of you know, like little pep rally about, hey, this is our school, it's so amazing, and this is what we do, and so that's a nice way to kind of get that really fun.
Yeah.
Feel good about, hey, we're selling, you know, the Holly Mealy cheerleading
I
kind
don't
of
think we
thing.
have that on a piece of paper yet, though, so let's just make sure. So I think the plan would be to run the work session, the second meeting in the month in a building, and so to actually, instead of, we do the
Public
regular
website.
session here.
Yeah.
And then we pick up our owl and we go to someplace
A
and,
library somewhere.
right,
Right,
and
on the road. Well,
And we have 10 buildings in 9 months, so we kind of work through that whole piece. You haven't asked the question, is that what you want?
I'm down.
Yeah,
You know, I think it'd be really cool too, is if, and not make it a requirement, I don't wanna put a burden on the school, but I really like when we've had. Like an orchestra, like we had the orchestra or the band or, you know, drama, maybe they come in and when they do a little piece of part of their play. And it could be really cool if whatever group is doing that is from that school, so one, they're not having to. You know, come to the district building as much, you know, that it's their own school.
Right.
They can showcase it, and it can even be, like in Sherwood, sometimes they'll do it before the official board meeting.
Yeah.
It could even be that like, hey, so maybe even we all meet at the band room beforehand and watch them play something there, or you know, if the cheerleaders are about to go do if they're about to go make nationals or something, we go out to the football field and we watch them do their routine or the basketball or what. That could be really cool at that whatever school is, so that they can have a chance to show off a little bit for that school in their home environment, rather than coming to us, we're going to them.
And I think it doesn't even have to be, you know, students present in the evening if that doesn't work for the community, but even just some student work. Like I love walking by a, you know, hallway table and seeing some examples of student work and give my teachers a opportunity to just showcase some awesome project that their class did.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my kind of funny side of my brain said, how can we like do the antique roadshow into this somehow? Like, look at artwork and talk about the features of it and.
I think that's you know, when we talk about our desire to rebuild trust with our community and our desire to communicate more clearly and be more present and that piece that I think we all bring to the table, which is this desire to cheerlead our community and celebrate them. But also knowing that we need to kind of make that easier on our schools.
I guess part of it though for me is, I would hate to just, we went to this school, no one showed up, there's no extra, you know, there's nothing extra happening. I hope that we can find a way to create public engagement by letting everyone know ahead of time, like, hey, we're right here in the neighborhood, hopefully you can come by, you know. See what we're doing, have a conversation with us, not like you're sitting, we're in, we're out. Some way that we can actually make this worthwhile so that we're engaging in new places with schools. I would just hate to show up and it's like, we saw some art and we were in this building and there was nobody there and we went, you know.
And it might take us a year or two.
Absolutely,
For them to.
absolutely, but
you know.
to make the focus of trying to make that a
Yeah.
priority of the reason we're doing.
Instead of doing the work sessions, we flip flopped it. The work sessions were here where we're just gonna get down to brass tacks, and we're gonna work through some things. But then the other ones where we have public comments and things, so that way it is more interactive, like.
And we can have public comment
Yeah,
in the first session, it just, we don't have to. I think almost the opposite, in my head, I feel like our first meeting is alright, we're slogging through votes, we're, you know.
Policy and.
Rather than like, the work sessions are a lot of times more we're getting information about curriculum. And I think sometimes that's like, oh my God, you guys talk about that at these board meetings? This would be wonderful to know.
I'm very open to having public comment at work.
I think especially if it's at a school, because
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're going to get a different crowd than come here.
Yeah.
If They're gonna, oh, you're at CV, I'm gonna, oh, that's right down the street, I'm gonna walk over and check it out.
Well, we might also be able to incorporate some of our strategic planning, prompt a question.
Yeah.
Hey, the board would like to know this about your school community. But also leave space for other people that just wanna come and have a comment about
Great.
whatever. But that could be a tool of utilizing public.
The PSOs meet, just monthly.
For the most.
I was,
Cause it could be really cool too if, even if it's not the same night, but if they were, that, we go to Edwards for that session and we maybe invite the PSO to come and speak about their issues too. I don't know, that could be another way, just really to dive into that community that night.
I think it would be really easy for us in this whole roadshow piece that we got going to ask these questions about what do you want in your schools? And like, I mean, it's just as an interactive aspect of some part of that meeting. Because if we do, I did 35 community meetings in my former district when we were getting to this whole, like, what was my district about? And so, I think there's a natural, like, interactive piece that we could, and I think talking to the parent organizations and saying, hey, we're gonna be at your school on this date. We'd love to have you come out. We have some interaction plan. We have some business plan too, but we could work that. I mean, I think it's a really nice idea. When we get there, it's better to give somebody a job than to have them sit passively.
Yeah. I was gonna say, the Saul's concern goes back to what you're saying, is how we can engage with the PTOs early enough. Then we can have them also send emails, have the administration of the building send emails, so we should get a larger swath of the population.
I really like this.
Are there some schools that have less engagement, community engagement than others?
Mhm.
Yeah, what I would say though is like, so I'm gonna call out of school, not because they're bad, but because I think they're good. Joanna Austin's had really low turnout. Leslie had 300 people at the kindergarten bingo night, I think it was. And so like a school that has had less parent participation, she's working really hard right now to re-engage folks. So even school like where there's low turnout, I think we can have high turnout. We gotta kind of get the right program and figure out what it is parents want from it.
I want a bingo card. I want a bingo card that challenges me to go to this school, to do this, to go to one of these attendance and things. I want one. We need one. That would be so much fun.
In that same way though, I think a lot of what drives that sometimes is kids coming home and saying, we're doing this. There's no way I'm missing movie night, bingo night, math night, reading night. Like, there's no way we're gonna sit home tonight. We're going to do it. And so to find a way where it's like, hey, kids, do you have things you wanna say? You guys have the best ideas most of the time. You're thinking of the kid and the student, not as an adult who's thinking over it. So maybe we could find a way to encourage, some way in there to get kids to be like, hey, this is happening at our school. I wanna go there. I wanna be there when this happens, cause I think that's a big driver for after school engagement. I think it's easy for parents to say, Tuesday.
Maybe we have one of us, you can just take a turn dressing up in a weird costume and and telling the kids who's gonna show up and what.
I'm out.
Don't never know.
Unless it's Halloween. 'Cause
I do.
dress up for Halloween.
Well, now you don't hear Halloween.
If I can go off of the road show for a second, one thing that I think that we should really talk about at some point is what we're doing to address bullying in schools. That feel like it comes up every time we interview students for these, our board, that's a big reason why they wanna do it, to talk about that. I feel like it just slips down, and I would like to really see what's happening.
And safety is one of our
Safety,
priorities
Yeah.
that we've identified.
Well, and
Okay,
the student rights and responsibility and the rewrite of that and just understanding. I'd like to understand more fully, and I think community members and students would like to understand more fully discipline processes.
yeah, I think again, like reading something on paper is one thing, but actually getting to say it out loud, I think brings a lot of power to stuff, so.
I think that's great. We're working really hard right now to unify practices and expectations across grade levels as far as discipline goes. Part of that has to do with the rewrite of our rights and responsibility. There's also another rewrite after that. Because right now, like Beaverton has kind of a unified practice K through 12. But it's gonna take us longer to move towards something like that. But I wanted you to know, I think it's a great time for us to come back and start talking with you about some of those things, because we do have some pieces kind of in the hopper on this.
So one thing, kind of circle back on a lot of stuff, because I think Jim talked about the cell phone policy and like challenges and all this other stuff. Is if something gets implemented, it doesn't necessarily have to be an open session, but I think we should get an update, several months later, like, how did it work out?
Okay.
Was it successful? Was it unsuccessful? Was it whatever? And I'm only picking on that one, because that was such a big deal, and we had 2 or 3 meetings about it. I mean, it could be anything that gets implemented, so.
like, is it working?
Yeah.
Nutrition services. Feel like I've seen that on our upcoming thing. I don't know if it was this year, but it felt like it kept going back, and I don't know if we ever had a good chance to talk about what's going on with lunches, schools and foods and how that's happening differently between schools.
Yeah. I heard
Like that.
we had a little bit of, there were some challenges with nutrition services of the first year that we were on the board, so, but that's been pretty quiet.
I think I would like to hear a little bit more. I mean, I know we want to hear from every school, but Catalyst and COA, I feel like are not frequently front of mind for me personally, and that was a goal for myself, is to get to know those programs and those people better in the next year.
An update on COA would be really good. I feel like it was a year and a half ago, we had a big discussion on its viability and the things that we didn't know were problems until it was a huge problem, so that would be something awesome to learn more about specifically.
And just to give you a little preview of that, we've been meeting with both Catalyst and COA and talking about that. COA to me is another alternative program. It's another way of getting your education. And so we're trying to now think of it in terms of an alternative program and how it fits in all of the different types of ways you can get your education in our district. So we've already begun meeting with them. We're not finished at all, so it's a good time for us to come back and present kind of what we're finding and where we're going.
Is the principal of Catalyst also over COA technically, or is it COA gonna be a shared thing because it is a program and not an entity now?
See, that's what got me started with this conversation was there was like a really diffuse leadership of COA because like multiple 5 or 6 different people were kind of in charge of it. And so it was really creating problems for our teachers in that program, like who's running this show? So we've begun to kind of talk about, in my mind, I think it sits more under Catalyst. But those are all that's what created this conversation for me, was like, okay, this is another alternative program. That's a valuable one. There's 160 kids in this. This is $1.5 million worth of ADM. So it's something we need to kind of get figured out. I think it's valuable too. I think the kids who are in it find value in that program that they would not find in a traditional high school or a traditional elementary school. So we have to kind of figure out who's leading it, where does it fit, how do we budget it? Because again, I think because again, if you don't have a seat at the table when budgets come around, you don't get budgeted well. And so it's like they need an administrator who's sitting at the table saying, well, we need this. So
And where does SAIL fit in to,
It's a student services program. It's basically, we have a responsibility to educate kids who have needs of those services through 21. And so it actually fits under student services. That would be another excellent thing to come and talk, because of that program's gonna evolve a whole bunch. There's really good programs that run from 21 to whenever. And we need to do a better job of coordinating our kids coming out of high school into SAIL and then the rest of their life. And so Dana has already begun to look at the program and start re-envisioning how that whole thing's gonna go. So
oh, she got it. Great.
We don't really have, I know we talked about earlier, more student rep engagement, but, I'd love to see beyond just the student rep comments. I'd love to see them more involved in our agenda planning, and it's okay if there's nothing they wanna talk about, but like, giving that time ahead of time to think. And get involved and maybe get some things on the agenda that is important to them.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see that, you know, just at least on one of our sessions, once a month to have space for that.
I think my plan with them too, because we've had some conversations about this, is I'll sit down and kind of onboard them in August and kind of talk about these pieces. I could do some agenda planning with them right at the beginning, to kind of talk through some of the things that they would. I think we also have to give them permission to, they aren't voting members, but they still get to ask questions, and they have a viewpoint that's unique in our room, in that they're still teenagers. And so giving them kind of the permission to say, hey, it's okay, I've got a question, I've got a wondering. I know all of you would be very open to that, but I think we have to kind of help them feel comfortable in that space.
And a reminder to ourselves I think we did a little bit better job last year, but to try and also ask them questions like, hey, what do you think about this? So I think that way they're not just figurehead sitting there.
It would be good to get them involved in some of the early work. I mean, I don't know if this can happen before you onboard them, but as we talk about board goals, I'd love to have their voice involved in that process, however that works. Another thing that I'm thinking about is even today, we're dealing with some news from the federal level about federal funding. And I'm wondering, sorry to bring that up, but I mean, that is also kind of an ongoing topic as we see so much dynamic. The nature of what's happening is very dynamic. It would be nice to see that. All of us informed and in the loop on that.
I think this with the student reps, great idea, because this is an adult was super helpful rather than trying to think of things for that. Just in terms of them being involved, but
On agenda planning.
agenda planning and what maybe their vision and goals would be for this year, this was a great exercise. But I guess things like English, ELL programs, special ed programs, I feel like it'd be really great to highlight those in some of our meetings to see what's happening with those. I feel like we made connections, or I did when I was running years ago, and I don't, to a large degree, I feel like I failed to follow through with a lot of those questions as we got swamped by non-student engagement issues. So I would love to be able to, when appropriate and not causing problems with other things happening, to be able to see what's happening, see the struggles they're having, what can be done, those kind of impacts we can have as well.
I think that next year, the first dual language class is going into their senior year. So, and I know dual language it was on the agenda at some point this year for a presentation from them, but so next year, would love to see that and maybe, you know, some of the seniors hear from them.
Well, I like to just understand that whole program, because I understood that it worked great for certain environments or certain grades or whatever levels, but then it kind of goes to the wayside. At one point, it was like they weren't focusing on it, and maybe they heard they were gonna bring it back, or like focus on it again, I don't know. This is more for you to maybe even just give us an update on one of your weekly emails, so.
Again, this is totally appropriate
Yeah,
because there's challenges there.
Yeah.
What I would tell you, it is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
We need to fix the things at the secondary level and get kids what they need. There's some challenges there, but it's all figure outable. And so, we just need to, but I think it's a great opportunity for the board to understand what some of those challenges are, what we're kind of up against at the building level, at the secondary level specifically. I think the elementary program is very well defined and it's just moving into the middle school and in the high school. But we're doing dual language in both of those spaces. We're still moving forward. People are, our staff and our folks, our parents are, heck, the dual language night at Mountain View was wild. There was so many people at it. So it's still going, but I think it's another great subject for us to talk about and help folks understand the purpose it serves. Great ideas. I've got plenty. If we could stop now.
Sure.
You know, I'm thinking it might be, we're gonna be meeting weekly. We're gonna have to move our board meetings to weekly to accommodate all that. Okay, so let's look, Dave, I know it's 9 now.
Yeah.
So was this the evaluation timeline?
I'll bring that back to you. I think
Okay.
that's, to be honest, I have kind of what I need I'll put my board goals together. I'll start working with, Celeste and with Aubrey around kind of working up some board goals, the priority pieces, and see if we can bring back something will be meaningful. So I think I have enough direction to do that part of it.
So then, does anybody have any comment that they wanna add to tonight's, I guess I just have the one, is that I wanted a little gift to you for me through Dr. Mark Brown. This is Mark's new book, and he gave me these cool little bracelets about hope. And so I wanted to highlight that, and then he was celebrated at Jostens. And he's quite the celebrity down there, apparently.
Yeah, so we.
Shout out to Mark Brown.
He was selected as educator, one of 4 educators of the year, for Jostens, Renaissance, which is really the organization that talks about school culture and how you build a school culture that celebrates kids and where all kids are seen, heard, and loved. And in those cultures, kids do better. They have the research to back it up. And Mark was celebrated as one of the 4 educators in the nation. And so we sat on Sunday night in a huge convention center with 4,000 people there celebrating Mark. I have a video of it, so we'll figure out where we're gonna share it. But it was really pretty impressive.
And he got a fancy ring.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Sure you did.
And a Letterman does.
So it was really good. I will tell you that we were all impacted by the experience and not only just celebrating Mark, but this idea of culture and how it trumps strategy. And schools where kids are respected and teachers are respected, and how you build some of that. And we're doing a lot of that work already. And so, but I think we came back with, again, kind of an idea about how we begin to align some of these practices between our schools and really start to, we've already done a lot of this work in just in my 8 months for sure. But we bringing together a team that's now going to kind of focus around how we're intentionally doing these things in every school. And Mark is an expert at this. I mean, he's a nationally recognized expert at building school culture. So I feel blessed to have somebody in our district who can walk alongside us as we continue to work on this. And the high school is recognized as a platinum distinction culture space. And the people who work, you know, we had Angela Kantz and Angela Stutzman, who are kind of running that program now. Mark is an administrator and an athletic director. But it was, I can't tell you, I'll also tell you, it was just like, the kids were having such a great time. When I was just watching how much fun the kids were having at this conference, I was just warmed my heart to see them celebrate. And this was basically from all over the nation, all the kids who are doing leadership, ASB and leadership. It was their kind of national convention. And it was great. I will tell you, I came back invigorated and like, okay, let's go. Let's start the new school year. Let's do this. I'm ready.
So I really encourage you, instead of scrolling through your phone, mindlessly pick up Mark's book. It's really, I mean, yeah, I think it's gonna be a great read. So anybody else have any comment that they wanna, do we wanna just quickly go around? Andy, do you want?
Sure, I've got just a couple of things. I know I can get long-winded. I just want to say thank you to the community. It really is an honor to serve in this position on the board and represent the community. Just a lot of gratitude there. I mentioned this when I was appointed back in March, but I feel like I have to do my due diligence. I do work for the state of Oregon. My participation on the board is as a community member and in no way affiliated with my role as a state of Oregon employee. And I will do my work I try to identify potential or actual conflicts of interest. I may not be able to vote on some things. I may have to recuse myself from some discussions. I will hold that boundary. And then very much in line with what we've been talking about tonight, and part of the joys of being a part of a community, I went to the Northwest Early Learning Academy sort of groundbreaking event on Sunday, and it was well attended, lots of people, barbecue, was very hot. But just to hear about all of the different organizations that are involved in providing something to contribute to this project. You know, we've got Northwest Christian Church is hosting space, ADEC is involved, the county is involved, the city of Newburgh, George Fox. I mean, there's so many different folks that are working on that. It's just, as someone who loves this community, that warms my heart.
Thank you for volunteering your time as elected officials now. We appreciate you being on the board in a new capacity or the same, but yeah, I'm excited to work alongside you all this next couple of years. And I'm gonna leave it at that because the time was now.
Yeah, I agree. Is looking forward to this next few years is gonna be hopefully prosperous for all of us and the school district and all the students. And I'm excited about this new role, so short and sweet.
Old role, but I'm excited to have you as a partner.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. Looking forward to working with you all.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that I had a year of experience before these next 4 years. I just am very pleased to serve in this role and I very much enjoy doing this work alongside all of you. I look forward to the next phase of it all.
Really happy to have you here, and I'm really happy for you to have your new role.
I'm sure you do.
Dave, any last word, parting wisdom?
No, it's, this is our last meeting of July. I know I'll be out on vacation. I know all of you will be taking some vacations, so I wish everybody's a great time. It's a great time for us to recharge and like I said, and get ready to go back at it in August. So
Do I have some things I need to sign this week,
Yeah.
tonight or tomorrow? Do I have
All the.
all the certifications, all
this
this,
is actually, I think I need,
Yeah, just that.
but I mean, all of the things that we voted on.
Resolution.
Resolutions.
yeah.
That too.
Pop in tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't need to take more time. Thank you, ladies, for helping facilitate this.
Yeah, thank you.
A pleasure, Beth.
Okay.
Meeting adjourned.
Like,
I know it.
I was like,
I was like, I think so, but just in case. I was like, you know.
And then
I
we
was
got
like,
one more.
it's okay.
It's okay.
That's,
That way we can-
I got a trouble in college.
Yeah.
It was like legal.
This is.
And it's all
Whatever.
That's
So one is for you, Keith, and then one is for us.
Potentially.
Well, you want to later, give it a couple weeks.
Corner of my.
Well, I think we can predict.